Chapter 28:31. Get ready for the wedding. Yes, father. Lin Yi nodded and walked forward. Lin Ling felt like he was in a dream as he looked at Lin Yi, who was about the same height as his son. The memories of Lin Yi's childhood were still playing in his mind. My daughter-in-law, I found her. Furthermore, Ying-er will be getting married tomorrow. Lin Ling then told him everything he knew. What? Lin Yi's face suddenly became gloomy. Lin Ling could see that this kid seemed to want to snatch the bride. His temperament was the same as his. He dared to take responsibility for his actions. He was a true man. However, as a father, if there was something his son couldn't do, a father would naturally have to block the wind and rain for him. The Western world. No wonder I thought Ying-er was well educated. She has a powerful background. Compared to the Great Return world, our rainforest holy land is like a backwater place. Elder Taiyan sighed. You're just a small world in the Western world. You have no right to be arrogant. However, Lin Ling said with disdain. His words made everyone's eyes narrow. Everyone get ready. We're going to fetch the bride. However, Lin Ling's next words struck everyone as if they had been struck by lightning. They also knew that Ying-er had been summoned back by her family to marry the son of a large commandery. This was not something they could resist. There were not many realms in the north that could resist this. But now Lin Ling said that he was going to fetch the bride? Dad, is what you said true? Lin Yi suddenly became a little excited. As a father, how can I watch someone steal my son's fiancée? So, even if it's Emperor Qin, if he dares to steal my daughter-in-law, I'll kill him. Lin Ling said word by word. He had always been protective of his family and friends. Father, you're so nice. Lin Yi was overjoyed and quickly hugged Lin Ling. This was his father. How domineering. Elder Taiyan and the others were also ecstatic and proud. Although he didn't know how Lin Ling would greet the bride, Lin Ling always did what he said. Yu Yu and the others happily surrounded Lin Ling. This was their husband, this was the head of the family. This girl, Ying-er, would sooner or later become a member of the Lin family. We'll set off tomorrow. I'll take you to the martial god world. Lin Ling said again, then went into seclusion. Everyone was in high spirits. It was as if they were celebrating the new year. The atmosphere was joyous. Every household began to prepare this chic character, preparing to host Lin Yi's wedding. The purpose of Lin Ling's seclusion this time was to activate another function of the Time and Space Divine Steel. It had to be known that the Time and Space Divine Steel had the ability to teleport. For example, in Qing Province, Lin Ling could use the Time and Space Divine Steel to reach the Flame World Fragment and return to his evil flame sect. Therefore, he planned to use the Spacetime Divine Steel to send Lin Yi and the others to Azure Prefecture. And in the Martial God world, those without the world origin seed could not walk the path of the Martial God, but the Time and Space Divine Steel could avoid the path of the Martial God. In the room, Lin Ling sat cross-legged. A black ancient steel floated in front of him. His soul power enveloped it like water. The jade pendant that Grandma Wendao gave me gives me a 60% chance of breaking through to the true God realm. Right now, I can clearly feel the aura emitted by the jade pendant quietly changing my Danton. The Azure Emperor's jade seal fragment is starting to change color. Activating a new function of the Time and Space Divine Steel was not difficult for Lin Ling. What surprised him was that the Azure Emperor's jade seal fragment was actually changing. It was originally a simple stone, but at this moment, it had a faint golden light. Because this stone could become the Azure Emperor's jade seal. There was light in front of him, which meant that the stone was changing into the Azure Emperor's jade seal. But Lin Ling thought that he did not seem to have done anything to this fragment. Could it be because I killed a lot of people? Lin Ling thought of what had happened during this period of time. His biggest impression was naturally the destruction of the Fire Spear world. This made him wonder, could it be that the fragment could only become the jade seal by killing people? If that was the case, Lin Ling did not want this jade seal. Lin Ling only had a 50% chance of becoming the Azure Emperor. Now that he was asked to become a murderous demon, he could not do it. Although he had killed many people in this life, most of them were people he had to kill. He would never implicate the innocent. This was also his principle. The next day, Lin Ling came out of seclusion and activated the Black Divine Steel of Time and Space. It was like a giant pagoda had appeared on the ground, and there was a door in the pagoda. Lin Ling had Elder Taiyan and the others enter one after another. I, Lin Ling, am marrying a wife. No matter what, I have to make it grand. So this time I will definitely bring my daughter-in-law back. Everyone, prepare to welcome the bride at home. When he left, Lin Ling looked at Lord Water Mist and the others and said, Sir, go on. We will be at home. Lord Water Mist and the others laughed and waved goodbye. After Lin Ling and the others left, they also became busy. The entire rainforest sacred land, the human race, the demon race and even the celestial race began to prepare to welcome the bride. This was because this was the wedding day of the legendary child of the rainforest sacred land. It could be said that the entire world was moved. Lin Ling had done so much for the rainforest sacred land and protected them time and time again. So, this was the only way they could repay Lin Ling. The time and space divine steel passed through the void and appeared under an ancient green mountain. When everyone walked out of the time and space divine steel, they were all shocked and very excited. I feel that the spiritual chi here is even denser. Elder Tai Yen was the most excited because he did not expect to step into the end of the martial path in this life. And this was the core of the myriad worlds, where the strongest martial artists gathered. It was the place that every martial artist dreamed of. What a mysterious feeling. Linny was the same. He was excited. Then everyone looked at Lin Ling. However, at this moment Lin Ling was holding a piece of jade and said to the jade, Sir Huangfu, there is something that requires the 6 barracks to do. In one day all of you must arrive at Tating Commandery. Moreover, everyone must wear festive clothes. Of course, it would be best if you could make me a beautiful sedan chair. TSK, Sir Lin Ling, you have a big operation again. Okay, I will solve it for you immediately. Laughter came from the other side. Obviously, the 6 barracks loved and respected the commander-in-chief who liked to break the rules. Brother Bai Xiaoyang, my son is getting married. I wonder if you can do me the honor of coming? This is a big event. Where is it? I will be there immediately. Vice Principal Gong, my family has a happy occasion. I wonder if you are there? Gosh, you are telling me about your family's happy occasion. You treat me like family. Of course, where is your family? Even if it is in the Crimson Province, I will rush over. Alright, I will bring the principal with me. It will be grand. Up to you. Chapter 2832. The one I like is Linny. Lin Ling doted on Huang Yinger, but he didn't have a good impression of her family. As they watched Lin Ling speak non-stop into the voice transmission jade tablet, Elder Tai Yen and the others were stunned. Who did Lin Ling contact? Only Yu and the others kept smiling. They were very happy with Lin Ling's actions, because their son's wedding couldn't be careless. Alright, after tomorrow prepare to welcome the bride. This is the most important thing in your life. Are you ready? After everything was settled, Lin Ling looked at Lin Yi and smiled. Father. Looking at what his father had done for him, Lin Yi was so touched that his eyes were wet. Alright, don't cry in front of so many people. Remember, I'm your father. If you can't solve the problem, I can solve it for you. However, don't rely on me too much. Otherwise, you won't be able to become an indomitable spirit. Lin Ling said. The group continued forward. Their destination was the martial gods' camp. As for the fire embryo city of the Grand Court Commandery, it was also bustling with noise and excitement. Lanterns were hung in every house with the word "she" pasted on them. Because tomorrow was the wedding day of their city lord's son. Speaking of which, the son of the governor was also a rare genius in Tating Commandery. He was one of the top 10 talents in Tating Commandery. His marriage had undoubtedly alarmed the entire city. In the city lord's mansion, a handsome young man was drinking wine with a smile on his face. Young Master Tai Chunyang, you're really something. Huang Yinger is from the Great Return realm. There are a lot of divine gems in their realm. After becoming in-laws, our Tating Commandery will also gain a lot of benefits. An old man who looked like a housekeeper said with a smile. Humph, they have also gained a lot of benefits. Now that they can become in-laws with our Tating Commandery, they can also dominate the nearby realms. However, a middle-aged man in his 40s snorted. He was the governor of Fire Embryo City and a direct descendant of Tating Commandery. Indeed, the Great Return realm is filled with some lowly bloodlines, so they can't wait to get closer to us. That's their fortune. The butler quickly flattered. Father, that Huang Yinger has another origin. However, the young man named Tai Chunyang drank his wine and smiled. Then he saw his father's confusion and explained, she is the woman of Lin Ling's son. Lin Ling. In Tating Commandery, the name Lin Ling was known by everyone. This seems to be troublesome. The governor's expression changed slightly. Back then, when Lin Ling massacred the Tating Commandery, he was also present and knew how domineering Lin Ling was. What are you afraid of? No matter how domineering Lin Ling is, do you think he dares to steal a woman? Marriage is consensual, so he can't control it. Moreover, I heard from Brother Sunbone that Lin Ling has offended many people in Fifth Ring City. I don't think he will live for more than a year. The young man laughed disdainfully and said, Lin Ling is just lucky. If you give me 3 years, I will also surpass him. Since Sunbone has spoken, it should be fine. Hearing this, the governor's expression relaxed. Especially when he thought of the agreement between Lin Ling and Tating Commandery that they would not interfere with each other's business, he was even more fearless. Unfortunately, he did not know that Tating Commandery had sent people to assassinate Lin Ling. That agreement was not something Lin Ling cared about. Father, don't be too nervous. His Majesty doesn't know about this. I want to wait until the rice is cooked before reporting to His Majesty. At that time, His Majesty will be very happy and will definitely reward us. Tai Chunyang said again, because stealing the woman of Lin Ling's son is a different way of humiliating Lin Ling. Good, haha, it makes me excited just thinking about it. Chunyang, you have done a good job. The governor could not help but laugh. Then the hall was filled with laughter. They could imagine that in the future, when they walked past Lin Ling with Huang Yinger, Lin Ling's face would be very ugly, and he would not be able to do anything about it. However, in their excitement, they did not know that even if they did not marry Huang Yinger, Lin Ling would still kill his way to Tating Commandery. Therefore their actions had sped up the pace of their deaths. Time passed quietly. The next day, on the other side of Huiyuan City, the atmosphere was also jubilant. The sound of firecrackers could be heard from time to time. According to the rules, the bride and the bride were not allowed to meet before the wedding. On the day of the wedding, the bride had to welcome the bride at her parents' home. However, Huang Yinger's hometown was too far away, so Tating Commandery arranged for them to wait in Huiyuan City for Tai Chunyang to welcome the bride. In one of the rooms, there was a woman who looked to be about 20 years old. At this moment, her face was covered in tears, and the rouge on her face had been melted by her tears. Miss, what's wrong with marrying into Tating Commandery? I've seen that young master. He is handsome and strong. This is the blessing of our great return world. The maid beside her said, shaking her head. If you want to marry, you marry him. I like Linny. The woman said, sniffling. The maid said disdainfully, Linny is nothing. He can't compare with young master Tai Chunyang. He is just a boy from the countryside. I'm afraid he has never been to the martial god realm. Even if his father is the master of a realm, he is just a rich man in the countryside. Look at Tating Commandery. It is different. The martial god realm is the dream place of warriors. They can also use a powerful bounded domain to bring us here. This is their ability. Mississippi, Xiaoyan, I have been away for a few years. You have changed. Mississippi, hearing this, the woman frowned and looked at her maid. It is not me who has changed. It is you who has changed. You have been blinded by false promises. You should know that the rainforest Holy Land is worse than the Great Return World, let alone the Tating Commandery. It is one of the 4 great commanderies. The maid still shook her head, thinking that her miss was too silly. Xiaoyan stopped talking. Mississippi, apparently, the woman did not want to talk anymore. She looked at the jade pendant in her hand and immediately thought of the young man she met during her training. They had gone through ups and downs together and had unforgettable memories. She liked Linny and missed him very much. Unfortunately, things did not go as she wished. In this world where the strong were respected, strength was everything. Without strength, one could not even be the master of one's own future. Obviously, she was a chess piece sacrificed by her family in order to become stronger. Bang. At this moment, the door of the room was kicked open. Then a woman in a fiery red robe strode in and kicked the maid away. The maid hit the wall and fainted. The woman looked to be in her 20s. She was very beautiful. The outline between her eyebrows was similar to Huang Yinger's. However, she was not as obedient as Huang Yinger. Sister. Sister. Looking at the woman, Huang Yinger could not help but exclaim. Chapter 28:33. A huge wedding procession. The woman took Huang Yinger's hand and walked outside. Yinger, I'll take you away. For your happiness, you don't have to believe the master anymore. Sister. Sister. Huang Yinger couldn't believe it, but she followed the woman. Obviously, she didn't want to marry Tai Chunyang. However, the woman had come at the wrong time. Today was the day of the wedding. Outside the inn, a large number of people from the Huang family had already gathered. When Huang Yinger and the others walked down, a large number of people had already stopped them. The leader of the group was a middle-aged man. He said coldly, Huang Xian, you're making trouble. Father. Seeing this, the red-robed woman's eyes trembled, but she still raised her head and said, Yinger already has someone she likes and I've seen him. He's sincere and good. Why do you want to break them up? Is the family situation more important than your daughter's happiness? Sigh. Father. Hearing this, the middle-aged man wasn't so cold anymore. Some things are beyond our control. Yinger's marriage was decided by the master. As her father, I can't change anything. Father. You're not a man. Father. The red-robed woman scolded angrily. Tai Chunyang doesn't like Yinger at all. This is a deal. You know it's a deal, but you don't dare to stand out and say anything. You're a coward. Father. You're right. Father. The middle-aged man was still not angry. He said, unfortunately it doesn't change anything. We, the Huang family, have to think for the future of the Huang family. Men catch Huang Xian'er and punish her by sending her to the family purgatory for 3 years. Father. Father, don't. I agree to marry Tai Chunyang. Don't punish my sister. Father. Seeing this scene, the well-behaved Huang Yinger immediately cried and said, Yinger. Father. The red-robed woman also cried with heartache. The siblings hugged each other because they were both sacrifices of the family. Seeing this, the middle-aged man was also heartbroken. He sighed and said, I'm sorry. I can only say that Linny doesn't have a good father and a good background. However, compared to the middle-aged man's helplessness, the other members of the Huang family were disdainful. They were already waiting for the wedding procession from Tating Commandery. However, at this moment, the sound of firecrackers came from afar. Then, the wedding procession came from afar. Dong dong dong. Clang clang clang. The deafening sound of gongs and drums shook the entire city. Moreover, the number of people in this wedding procession was simply beyond imagination. Looking from afar, the crowd was densely packed. There were probably more than 100,000 people. Amidst the endless sea of people, a group of people wearing red robes carried a bridal sedan and arrived. Seeing that, the members of the Huang family were all overjoyed. What a grand scene. The elder from the Huang family even said to Huang Ying'er and her sister, Do you see that? To be able to summon so many experts in Qing province, he must be your future husband. Take a look at how strong those people are. Not to mention so many of them, even one of them would be an overlord in the Great Return realm. They were obviously very excited and their faces were greatly raised. So many people. Even Huang Yinger's father was the same. But Tai Chunyang and the others don't seem to be able to summon so many people. Moreover, those people are even stronger than the city governor's guards. However, the surrounding martial artists of Grand Court Commandery let out exclamations of surprise. Their words made the members of the Huang family tongue-tied. They must be Tai Chunyang's men. Otherwise, how could an ordinary person summon so many people? However, the elder from the Huang family was still convinced. At the same time, the city governor also walked out. He bowed slightly to the sky and said, May I ask if you are Tai Lisho's men? Tai Lisho was Tai Chunyang's father. It was obvious that he was not too sure if this grand wedding procession was Tai Chunyang's men. Tai Lisho? Where did this old dog come from? I don't know him. In front of the wedding procession, an elder wearing a festive red robe said disdainfully. At this moment, the people on the ground were in an uproar. Could it be that this wedding procession was not Tai Chunyang's men? But where did they come from, and who were they here to welcome? Perhaps they were just passing by. Who are you to block the road? Do you want to die? The elder said again. This made the city governor a little unhappy because the elder's tone did not give them any face. Sir, you don't seem to know that this is the territory of Grand Court Commandery. The city governor suppressed the anger in his heart and said, Thank you for reminding me. I know now. However, just as the city governor finished speaking, the elder flicked his finger. Then a beam of boundary essence shot out and penetrated the city governor's forehead. Plop. When the city governor fell to the ground, the whole city was silent. The city governor was an expert of the 3rd level of True God realm. However, the elder killed him with a single finger. Most importantly, he attacked in the territory of Grand Court Commandery. How arrogant. This elder is so strong. Could he be the person behind this wedding procession? I don't think so. The people beside him are not weaker than him. What a powerful background. Why are they here? The people discussed animatedly and their hearts continued to tremble. Huangfu, old man, today is a big day. Who told you to bleed? You've offended the Lord. You're dead. At this time, a person beside the elder reprimanded. He was also an old man in his 50s. However, his spine was straight and he looked energetic. Although it's a big day, the Lord has said that anyone who blocks the road will be killed. The elder who attacked previously said with a faint smile. His words were domineering, causing the whole city to tremble like cicadas in winter. Clang, 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 clang. Just like that, the magnificent wedding procession arrived on the ground. No one in the city dared to speak. Even their breathing slowed down. They looked at the procession that was beyond their imagination and wanted to know why they were here. Under the Lord's orders, we're here to welcome the bride. The elder looked at the crowd majestically and finally spat out a sentence. Now that the city governor was dead, the person in charge was no doubt from the Huang family. Huang Yinger's father quickly walked out and said, "I wonder who the Lord is marrying? Is there some kind of misunderstanding?" He still thought that the others were just passing by. After all, apart from the royal family of Jianghu, no ordinary person was qualified to have such a grand wedding procession. The bride is Huang Yinger. However, the elder's words were shocking and he said again, "Yinger? Why is it her? Isn't she Tai Chunyang's fiancée? They're snatching the bride." Without any suspense, the whole city was in an uproar. No one was unmoved. Huang Yinger's father's expression changed drastically. Before he could say anything, the elder beside him said, "Lord, are you mistaken? What? Are we not worthy?" The elder glanced at the Huang family and said. At this time, the people of the Huang family laughed bitterly. Were they still not worthy? Hundreds of thousands of people came to welcome the bride, and all of them were indomitable powerhouses. If that was the case, it would be the Huang family's blessing. Chapter 28:34. Worthy or not? This? The old man from the Huang family didn't know what to say. It seems that the dowry is too little. The old man smiled and waved his hand. At the back of the group, more than a dozen people in festive robes carried large and small parcels. They placed them on the ground and opened them. Swoosh! The divine crystals, which were filled with dense spiritual energy, immediately dispersed. Among them there were also pill bottles of various colors. Disaster-releasing pill? That's for breaking through to the World King realm. Is that the legendary human ring pill? It's used by experts and can quickly recover spiritual energy. These pills are priceless and there are countless divine crystals. The crowd exclaimed. Not to mention the people from the Huang family, even the eyes of the martial artists in the city turned red because these were all precious treasures. If it weren't for the mysterious background of the other party and the large number of people, they would have already snatched them. Heavens, that's first cloud grass ghost flame and heavenly bone water. That's nothing. There are treasures and immortal treasures over there. Another person cried out in surprise, almost drooling out of his mouth. One had to know that these treasures were nothing to the powerhouses of Five Ring City, but to people like them, they were huge treasures. Especially the people from the Huang family, they were all trembling. Because the Huang family came from 10,000 worlds, what they lacked the most were pills and weapons that could increase their strength. If the Huang family obtained these weapons, their great returning world strength would increase by 100 times. As for Huang Yinger and her sister, they were so shocked that they couldn't close their mouths, especially Huang Yinger. She didn't expect that she, who came from 10,000 worlds, would be able to make the major forces of Green State use so many treasures to marry her. Worthy or not? The old man asked again. Worthy or not? It seemed that he had to know the answer to this question. Moreover, this wedding procession was very domineering. Hundreds of thousands of people came to escort the bride, and it seemed that they were worthy or not. Moreover, the endless dowry was thrown on the heads of the great returning world, and it was also to ask if they were worthy or not. This throw made the people from the Huang family dizzy and they all wanted to shout, "Yes, yes, yes, yes." Even the people on the side of the road thought, is this still not worthy? If the other party didn't mention that he wanted Huang Yinger, they would have brought their daughters out to see if the mysterious groom took a fancy to her. Yes. Finally, the old man from the Huang family shouted. He was deeply afraid that if he was too slow, these precious treasures would be taken away by others. However, Huang Yinger's father immediately stopped him. Wait. Then he looked at the huge wedding procession and cupped his hands. It's my daughter's honor to be loved by so many seniors. However, it's not about whether the groom is worthy of my daughter. It's about whether my daughter is worthy of the groom. In the end, he was relatively calm and cherished his daughter, because he didn't know the other party's background at all. What if there really was a misunderstanding? At that time, if the other party killed them for the sake of face, they would have nothing to say. It was fine if he died, but he was most afraid that Yinger would be implicated. Hearing this, the old man smiled. He could tell that Huang Yinger's father was not blinded by wealth. Just as he was about to say something, the sound of gongs and drums came from afar. Firecrackers kept crackling. A wedding procession came from another direction. At this moment, the entire city fell silent. Because that was the real wedding procession, Tai Chunyang's wedding procession. Moreover, the two wedding processions were about to meet, which no doubt made people look forward to it. The people from Tating Commandery are here. The old man from the Huang family said in fear. Fortunately, Huang Yinger's father had stopped him before, otherwise he would have ruined the whole thing. Although the Daihuan world was tempted by those treasures, they could not afford to offend Tating Commandery. If they married Huang Yinger to this mysterious procession, how could he explain it to Tating Commandery? What's going on? In the sky, a handsome young man arrived on a single-horned Pegasus. The beautiful Pegasus had a big red flower hanging on its neck, which meant that he was the groom today. He was supposed to be happy today, but when he saw the other wedding procession in the city, he couldn't be happy at all. Tai Chunyang was getting married and someone was one step ahead of him? Wasn't this a slap to his face? Tai Lisho, who was next to him, was also confused. He also called for the wedding procession to land on the ground. However, they came with pride, but compared to the other wedding processions, whether it was the number of people or the extravagance, they were much shabbier. This made them instantly feel humiliated. What's going on? Tai Lisho was worthy of being the governor of a city. He suppressed his anger and asked calmly, "Sir, they are also here for the wedding procession." The old man from the Huang family immediately smiled bitterly, which made Tai Lisho frown. If it weren't for the fact that there were so many people, he would have slapped the old man. Wasn't this nonsense? The other party was dressed in red clothes and robes. If they weren't here for the wedding procession, were they here for the funeral? Just as he was about to speak, the old man from the Huang family's next sentence made his pupils dilate. They are here to marry Huang Yinger? Tai Chunyang, who was next to him, was tongue-tied. Was this kidnapping? Blue veins appeared on his forehead. Everyone knew that today was his wedding procession and the bride was Huang Yinger, but the other party was one step ahead of him and stole his bride. Did they want to humiliate him until his ancestors' generation? Tai Lisho was undoubtedly furious. Although this group of people seemed to have a strong background, this was Tating Commandery. His Majesty was behind everything, so he had nothing to be afraid of. Moreover, stealing his son's wife was not only a slap to his son's face, but also a slap to his smooth face. He couldn't afford to lose face like this. Men, arrest all these people. Tai Lisho waved his hand, but at this moment Tai Chunyang, who was riding on a horse, suddenly smiled. Father, wait. He looked at the endless procession and suddenly smiled even more excitedly. In Tating Commandery, who can summon so many people? Who can make such a grand procession? Moreover, they know that my fiancée is Huang Yinger, but they insist on marrying her. Father, doesn't this mean something? The whole city was silent after hearing this. They also felt strange because this was too much of a coincidence. Chunyang, what do you mean? Tai Lisho was puzzled, but then he suddenly thought of something and suddenly laughed. Is this His Majesty's idea? Father, it must be. The father and son looked at each other and laughed even more happily. Obviously, they guessed that His Majesty knew about Tai Chunyang's marriage, so he specially came to congratulate him and made such a grand procession. Only His Majesty had the power to summon so many experts. His Majesty, you are so considerate. Chapter 28:35. Cut off one of your arms. No wonder this group of people is so powerful. So that's why. Hearing this, the members of the Huang family also came to a realization and they all laughed. Moreover, they looked at the mysterious wedding procession as if they were complaining. Their eyes seemed to say, "You have been hiding it from me. So it's our family." Young Master Tai is still the most respected. The old man from the Huang family immediately flattered, making Tai Chunyang smile proudly. The old man from the Huang family looked at Huang Yinger and said, "Do you see? This is your future husband. Look at how many experts he can summon. These experts are not to be underestimated in the great returning realm. Even in the West realm they are a force to be reckoned with. It is your fortune to be able to marry young Master Tai." Hearing this, Huang Yinger tightly clenched her teeth and did not say a word. She almost had an idea. She would rather go with this group of mysterious people than marry Tai Chunyang. Unfortunately, this group of mysterious people were also Tai Chunyang's people. She was very disappointed. Haha, today is a day of celebration for the whole country. Tai Chunyang was still riding on a big horse. At this moment he was in high spirits. He looked at the mysterious wedding procession and said proudly, "Although you want to make a surprise, you have scared my fiancée. The leader of the group, go and apologize." Obviously, he wanted to show off his power and let the Huang family know that these experts had to listen to him obediently. "Yes, go and apologize. You have scared the Huang family members." Tai Lisho also said so. He looked very majestic. The people's eyes immediately looked at the mysterious wedding procession. Many people laughed, wanting to see the scene of the people behind the scene apologizing to the Huang family. However, in front of the wedding procession, the old man was expressionless and ignored them. Instead, he seemed to be waiting for something. Cut off one of his arms. Finally, a cold voice came from a carriage in the procession. It suddenly made the space seem to be frozen. Cut off one of his arms. It was a very calm voice, but it made the eyes of the people in the city freeze. Didn't this huge wedding procession come for Tai Chunyang? Shouldn't they listen to Tai Chunyang? Now he wanted to cut off his arm? Even Tai Chunyang's mouth was wide open. Earlier, in order to prove his authority, he had deliberately ordered these experts. However, as soon as he gave the order, they wanted to cut off his arm. Wasn't this embarrassing? Are you all confused? Tai Lisho suddenly roared, "Who is your mastermind? Who gave you the guts?" However, as soon as he finished speaking, a miserable shriek came from beside him. Blood gushed out from the single-horned Pegasus. Tai Chunyang rubbed his right arm in pain. His right arm was broken. His face was hideous and his body was trembling. Obviously, someone had made a move against him, and they were utterly unable to see through the process of that person's attack. He really did it. Seeing this, the faces of the Huang family members turned as white as paper. They had been telling Huang Yinger how awe-inspiring Tai Chunyang was, but now not only had Tai Chunyang failed to summon that group of powerhouses, his right arm had been cut off. This was too ironic. So, this group of people has nothing to do with Tai Chunyang. Yes, it's ironic that Tai Chunyang actually wanted to summon them. He's too arrogant. I thought that this group of people was so strong, how could they be summoned by Tai Chunyang? The surrounding people were discussing spiritedly. Many of them were warriors from Qingzhou who had come from afar. They wanted to watch the festivities, but they saw the groom's arm being cut off. Such a groom was indeed embarrassing. You've rebelled. Men kill them. Tai Lisho was obviously furious. He felt sorry for his son, but he was also angry at the loss of face. Who are you? Receiving the order, the warriors of Fire Embryo City rushed toward the bridal procession. Killing intent surged. The two bridal processions are going to fight. It seems that they're from different camps, but they're here for the same bride. Interesting, it's getting more and more interesting. I wonder who will marry the bride in the end. More and more people appeared in the distant sky and began to discuss spiritedly. They were looking forward to a big battle. However, was it a big battle? Were the ones you can't mess with cold? A cold voice came from the carriage of the bridal procession. Then a large number of experts rushed out of the bridal procession. They were wearing festive robes and looked like they were here to escort the bride. However, when they attacked, they didn't look like they were here to celebrate the wedding. Instead, they looked more like an elite army. To them, the guards of Fire Embryo City were like children. Whoosh, bang, 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 bang. Blood rained down from the sky. Tai Lisho's army was wiped out in just 3 hours. The group of mysterious people felt that it wasn't enough. They rushed to Tai Lisho's side and killed everyone around him. They even wanted to kill the single-horned Pegasus. In the end, Tai Chunyang didn't kill them out of respect. Only the father, son, and the Pegasus were left alive. Then, they silently returned to the bridal procession and continued to play gongs and drums and set off firecrackers. The whole process seemed to be telling the crowd that the people who died were not killed by them. However, this scene made the whole city fall into a dead silence. It was too fast. 2 bridal processions, one was like a chicken and the other was like an eagle. Especially now, Tai Lisho only had 2 people left while the bridal procession was still huge. This difference was unreal. Was Tai Chunyang still a bridegroom? He looked like a beggar. You want to steal the bride from me? You're not qualified. At the same time, a disdainful voice came from the carriage. It was domineering and majestic. His voice drifted throughout the city, causing the nearby regions to feel extremely oppressive. Those martial artists who had come to watch were all in high spirits. They had directly crushed the bridal procession on the other side, and even the horses were almost not spared. This was a true bride snatching. Bride, please get on the sedan chair. The old man in front of the procession said calmly. Ironically, they could have killed Tai Chunyang, but they didn't. Instead, they let the bridegroom take Huang Yinger away. Such an action was undoubtedly more painful than killing Tai Chunyang. Huang Jun, how dare you? Tai Lisho didn't dare to face the bridal procession anymore. He could only roar at the Huang family. Because as long as Huang Yinger didn't get on the sedan chair, they wouldn't lose all their face. This? The old man from the Huang family also had a headache. One was from Tating County and the other was from an unknown but terrifying bridal procession. He couldn't afford to offend either of them. Moreover, the owner of the carriage seemed to be in no hurry after hearing Tai Lisho's words. He wanted to see what other tricks Tai Lisho had up his sleeves. I've never liked to bully people. Moreover, marriage has always been consensual. So, I'll give you time. Even the voice from the carriage didn't know if it was directed at Tai Chunyang or the old man from the Huang family. Chapter 28:36. You can't beat me. They even understood the meaning behind the carriage owner's words. Wanna play? I'll play with you slowly until you're convinced, until you kneel. Huang Jun, your great return world has agreed with our Tating commandery. Today Huang Yinger must marry me. You don't have to worry about this group of people because this is Tating commandery. They don't deserve to be arrogant here. Tai Chunyang roared angrily after suppressing his wound. He was clearly throwing caution to the wind. He didn't believe that he couldn't beat this group of mysterious people. That's right, we must marry Huang Yinger today with the strength of the entire nation. They are not worthy of fighting over the bride with us. Tai Lisho said coldly. This was because it was not only about their reputation, but also about the reputation of Tating commandery. Unworthy? A sneer suddenly came from the carriage. Senior Huangfu, how many cities does Grand Court County have? My lord, there are 81 cities in Grand Court County, and many of them are cities within cities. However, the most famous one is still the 81 cities. The old man in front of the wedding procession immediately replied. All right, let's see if they are worthy. Destroy the cities for me. First, Fire Embryo City. The sound of the carriage turned cold. Destroy the city? Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. They could see that the owner of the carriage was about to start playing. He was telling the Huang family whether they were worthy or not. He was also telling the people of Tating commandery, do you think you can afford to fight with me? Rumble. At the same time, something seemed to have received orders. Far off in the distance, Fire Embryo City exploded, and the ancient city was completely destroyed. The entire process only took a single sentence. Everyone was shocked. Tai Lisho also opened his mouth wide. His lair was destroyed just like that? Not good, a large number of people are charging towards Fire Absolute City. They are no longer charging towards Fire Absolute City. Instead, that city has been destroyed. Someone cried out in alarm. Because they were standing in the sky, they could clearly see that far away in the distance, smoke was billowing, and that was where Fire Absolute City was. Moreover, the billowing smoke seemed to have opened a door. Then it continued to pour out from all directions of Tating commandery. The whole country was in a panic. This wedding procession is so scary. Does he want to destroy his country for a bride? His playstyle is too domineering. Following which, numerous pairs of eyes stared at the carriage in horror. They were all curious about the owner of the carriage. Just one word of disagreement and the country would be destroyed. This was simply too domineering. Tai Lisho, what happened? His Majesty said that you are asking him for help. Is that true? However, the cities of Tating commandery fell one by one. How could Tating commandery not be moved? After knowing the origin of the matter, a large number of experts from Tating commandery rushed out. Ah, you're dead. You've gone too far. You're no match for Tating commandery. Sensing the surging aura in the distance, Tai Lisho and his son laughed wildly. That was because they had been scared out of their wits before. They had never seen such a domineering character. The more he played, the more he went overboard. He directly massacred the entire city. However, even if they were afraid, they had to grit their teeth and persevere. Now that they saw the arrival of the imperial family, they felt that they had won. Come on, let's see if you still dare to play. Haha, I don't know who you are. Now that you've been targeted by His Majesty, you'll regret it and suffer. After laughing wildly, the father and son were elated. Tai Chunyang looked at the old man from the Huang family proudly and said, Huang Jun, will your Huang Yinger marry me or marry them? The old man from the Huang family also noticed that all the experts from Tating commandery had come out. There was no doubt that Tai Chunyang was more powerful. Therefore, he flattered him and said, Young Master Tai is still the best. However, just as he finished speaking, a large number of experts rushed out from nowhere and rushed towards the experts from Tating commandery like a tide. Boom, 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 boom. Deafening noises rang out. The true God Realm experts of Tating commandery were all annihilated within the time it took for 3 incense sticks to burn. They were turned into ashes before they even reached the city. Seeing this, the old man from the Huang family swallowed his flattery back into his stomach. Tai Chunyang's proud face froze. The entire city was deathly silent. Only the people from the bridal escort team secretly sneered. The last time the 6 battalions came to Tating Commandery, they could have already destroyed the commandery. In the end they stopped because of the appearance of the top experts. This time Tating Commandery still dared to come and seek death? Dong, 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 dong. The bridal escort team seemed to feel that the surroundings were too quiet, so they started to beat the gongs and drums again. Of course, the sound of the drums and the firecrackers were undoubtedly mocking Tai Chunyang and his son. Play. What other tricks do you have? Tai Chunyang and his son's faces were as pale as ashes. They were dispirited and lost. At this moment, they only felt that they were very small, as if they were fighting against a giant elephant. Who are you? However, at this moment the light of flames shot up into the sky. Then a large group of people appeared above the crowd, causing the sky to be filled with burning clouds. Among them was a young man with golden bone wings on his back, looking majestic. Brother Sun Bone. Seeing this, Tai Chunyang felt as if he had seen a life-saving straw. The pride of Tating Commandery had arrived. You want to destroy my entire country just to steal the bride? If you want to play, I'll play with you. At the same time, a middle-aged man beside Sun Bone said coldly. It was obvious that he was in a bad mood at the moment. Your Majesty. Tai Lisho was stunned for a moment, then he was ecstatic. He had never expected that his son's bridal escort would bring the emperor here. As for the Huang family, they were so scared that they knelt down and looked up at the man in the sky. Was that the legendary emperor of Tating Commandery? Moreover, even the godlike emperor was joining the game. He wanted to play too. This is interesting. How about I join in as well? That wasn't the end of it. A mysterious person in a yellow robe appeared beside the middle-aged man. He had a jade crown on his head and he looked wise and mighty. There were layers of yellow sand on the surface of his body. Emperor? Was this another Emperor Realm Master? Is he the Emperor of only Commandery? It's him. I saw him 100 years ago. But why is he here? Only Commandery and Tating Commandery reached an agreement 3 years ago. They are allies. Therefore, only Commandery will come when Tating Commandery is in trouble. In the distance, some warriors who wandered around Qingzhou whispered to each other. This time the game was getting out of hand. You can't beat me. However, after a moment of silence, a disdainful voice drifted out like the wind. The voice was like thunder, arrogant and unruly, as if he was the only one in the world. This person was not afraid of the 2 commanderies playing with him. Instead, he wanted to play bigger and bigger. Chapter 28:37. No one could stop them. Catch them. The voice came from the carriage again as if it was giving an order. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The space exploded and several mysterious masked men appeared in the sky, grabbing out with their hands. The surging realm energy shattered the sky and the ground shook. The strength of these people had reached a terrifying level. Even the emperors of Tating Commandery and Wofi Commandery changed their expressions at this moment. They did not expect that there would be such powerful people hidden in the wedding procession. These powerful people were stronger than them. Most importantly, these powerful people actually listened to the carriage owner. Was this still a wedding procession? This marriage gave people the feeling that even the Azure Emperor wouldn't be able to stop it from happening. Bang, bang, bang. There were many people who attacked. The white tiger roared and the black tortoise shrouded the area. In just half an hour the 2 majesties were subdued. Bang, bang. Then they fell to the ground like stray dogs. They were stepped on by a foot, making it difficult for them to stand up again. Sun Bone was not weak, but his expression changed drastically. He no longer looked as arrogant as before. Most importantly, he guessed the identity of these people. They were one of the 4 authorities of Four Ring City. However, after knowing the truth, he was even more terrified. He could not think of anyone who could summon these powerful people. Even His Majesty has been subdued? At the same time, the sound of people sucking in cold air was also heard. No one expected that even His Majesty would not be able to do anything. Instead, he was being stepped on like a dog. Play with me. Almost at the same time, the cold voice came from the carriage again, silencing everyone. Play with you. But can you afford to play with me? Plop. Tai Chunyang fell from the heavenly horned horse. Slap, slap, slap. He slapped himself countless times because he finally realized who he was trying to steal the bride. How could he afford to offend such a person? In fact, he thought that Grand Court Commandery was his territory, and outsiders would not be able to defeat him. Therefore, he always thought that Huang Yinger was going to marry him. Who knew that Grand Court Commandery would use all their trump cards, and powerful people would come one after another. Even His Majesty came. However, it was all useless. The owner of that carriage was incomparably domineering, looking down on the world. One trump card was enough to suppress another. In the end, he had toyed with him until he was afraid and felt inferior. To the point that even if he had a wife, he wouldn't dare to want her or marry her. What kind of background did the person who wanted to marry Huang Ying'er have? How dare you? At this moment, on the ground, the two venerable sovereigns were covered in dust and grime, their lungs bursting with anger. They were not like Sun Bone, who had been to Five Ring City. Therefore, even if the person who attacked them unleashed his aura, they did not know the other party's background. In addition, the other party was wearing a mysterious mask, which made them even more confused. You're rebelling. We're an ally of the great Azure Divine Dynasty. How dare you trample on us? I won't let you off even if I mobilize the entire nation. The Emperor of the Only Me Commandery roared furiously. Stop pretending in front of me. Unfortunately, the person on top of him sneered and stepped on his face. The mysterious masked man clearly disdained His Majesty. Heavens, the army has surrounded the city. The entire army of Tating Commandery has returned. They want to save His Majesty. There are so many of them. All the warriors of Only Me Commandery have also moved out. At this moment, the people in the sky saw the ominous aura billowing in the distance. Dark clouds drifted over. However, those were not dark clouds, but the entire army of the two commanderies. There were so many people. At this moment, the people in the city were terrified. They were afraid of being implicated. They knew that there were many experts present, but no matter how strong they were, would they be able to stop the countless armies? They were not sure about this. Do you see that? Get lost. The Emperor of Tating Commandery seemed to have regained his confidence. This was because this was the army that he had secretly summoned. At this moment, all eyes were on the bridal escort team. They wanted to see their anxious expressions. Unfortunately, they were disappointed. Not to mention that the bridal escort team was made up of soldiers. Even if they were not, they would not be afraid. However, they did not want to mess up the bridal escort team, so they did not move at will. Do you think you're the only one? Tang Yue, it's time for you to repay me. Move out. At this moment, a majestic voice came from the carriage again. It was as if the emperor had waved the flag and was descending to the world. Go. At this moment, a vast army had also appeared in a place further away. They were moving in waves and had actually surrounded the army from the outside. Who are those people? They seemed to be the armies of Square Commandery and Heavenly Commandery. Gosh, who is the owner of the carriage? Did he summon the two commanderies? Looking at the scene that changed the world with one sentence, the people's hearts were about to explode. Even the two emperors were the same. Their faces were pale and they were more curious than anyone else. Who was the owner of the carriage? Was he an ordinary person if he could summon the other two commanderies of the four commanderies? Without a doubt, the moment the army moved out, the army of Tating Commandery did not dare to move. This caused the entire sky to become absolutely silent. No one had expected that the bridal escort team would be so grand and grand. It was as if the entire Qingzhou had been turned upside down. How terrifying. At this moment, a cold voice sounded. Some unfamiliar experts appeared quietly. They floated in the sky and looked at the ground indifferently. These people had powerful backgrounds. Sun Bone and the others' eyes lit up. Eighth Lord, help me. Are you the Azure Dragon King? Since you're here, help me this time. Tell me what you want after this. Sun Bone and the rest of the 9 heavens of Qingzhou said immediately when they saw the experts who were attracted by the grand procession. You're the 9 heavens of Qingzhou. We have to give you face. Lord Eighth and the rest said flatly. Sun Bone and the rest's eyes lit up. However, Lord Eighth added, but now I can't help you. Although that guy is not as powerful as you, there are more people who value him. I can only say that you can't compare to him in terms of courage. After saying that, the experts turned and left. Obviously, they knew who the owner of the carriage was. However, they did not dare to act rashly in front of that person. This was because they knew that the experts on the other side of the carriage were 100 times more than them. Some unexpected people were even invited, which shocked them. What? How could this be? Sun Bone and the rest were terrified when they saw Lord Eighth and the rest leave. There were people in Qingzhou that they did not dare to offend. Who was the owner of the carriage? Failed again? All the experts of Tating Commandery, the emperors, the army, and even the experts from Qingzhou failed to stop them. Chapter 28:38. I'm Lin Yi, the trash you've been talking about. Who dares to play now? At the same time, a voice came out of the carriage. It was calm and composed. Who else could it be but me? However, the world was silent. Everyone saw that no matter what method they used, no matter how strong they were, they could not win against the owner of the carriage. This was definitely a robbery. Your Excellency, who are you? Our Tating Commandery has no grudge against you. If you really want to marry that girl, you can just say so. A Tating Shiju will give you face. You don't have to make things so awkward between us. At this moment, the Grand Court Commandery's Majesty finally spoke because he'd realized that the owner of the carriage wasn't someone he could afford to offend. He knew that he had kicked an iron plate. Moreover, if he had known that this person was so terrifying, he would have treated him with respect. In fact, everyone was curious about who the owner of the carriage was because it was too terrifying. You'll know who I am later. I'm here for 2 reasons. First, I'm here to marry my daughter-in-law. Finally, laughter came out of the carriage. Then a young man in a groom's robe walked out. This young man was wearing a mask, but it was obvious that he was very excited. Behind him was an old man and a middle-aged woman. They also walked out, but they were all wearing masks. This is today's groom. The old man in front of the bridal procession introduced him with a smile. At this moment, countless people looked at the young man. Their faces were filled with fear. Daughter-in-law? This meant that the groom was the son of the owner of the carriage. This groom had a good father. For the sake of this marriage, he would kill anyone who stood in his way. A father like this was probably everyone's dream. Go ahead. No one will dare to stop you. Bring your wife here. The old man behind the groom spoke in a gratified tone. He glanced at the carriage and his heart surged. Because the grand scene before was obvious to all, and he was even extremely worried. However, he didn't expect that his little grandson would be so amazing, to actually cause a huge wave in the Qing province. This was the pride of the Lin family. Yes. The young man nodded excitedly and walked towards Huang Yinger. How terrifying. Yinger, is this your groom? For you, he's thrown the entire world into chaos. Beside Huang Yinger, her sister said in horror. In fact, she was also shocked by the groom's actions. If someone came to marry her like this, she would have agreed to marry him. But Huang Yinger stood alone in the same place. Although she was touched, she already had someone she liked. Therefore she did not walk forward. Let's go quickly. We were blind before. Tai Chunyang is just a piece of trash. How can he be compared to him? The old man from the Huang family hurriedly walked over and said. He was even afraid that the groom would be angry, so he spoke while smiling at the groom. Because he also saw that the bridegroom's father was an ambitious and ruthless person who could destroy a country without saying a word. Even the emperor of Tating Commandery had to be submissive to him. He could not afford to offend such a person even if there were 100 of him. Me? Huang Yinger still did not move forward. She was very stubborn. You're too insensible. That old man immediately said in a resentful tone. Uncle Huang Jun, that's enough. At this time, Huang Yinger finally could not hold it in anymore. In the rainforest sacred land, I was with Lin Yi. You also said that he was a piece of trash. He did not have a good father or a good background. He was not worthy of me. On the contrary, Tai Chunyang was the best candidate in your heart. Now that Tai Chunyang is not comparable to him, you said that he is a piece of trash. I, Huang Yinger, do not have anything. I have someone I like. The old man was obviously furious. He was afraid that Huang Yinger's words would anger the owner of the carriage and kill them all. He suddenly gritted his teeth and wanted to slap Huang Yinger's face. However, someone stopped him. It was Huang Yinger's father. At this moment he obviously stood up. Huang Jun, that's enough. She is my daughter. Huang Yinger's father's eyes were red. He gritted his teeth and said, we only care about the family. What about the Huang family? You only think about yourselves. You only want to find a better in-law. Have you ever thought about my daughter? Father. Hearing this, Huang Yinger and her sister immediately cried. For the first time they felt that their father was so great. Father, I'm going all out. Today these big shots caused such a big commotion because of you. They are not people we can provoke. However, Father will always be on your side. Huang Yinger's father said word by word. He looked at the approaching groom and bowed slightly. I'm sorry, my Yinger already has a fiancé. We caused such a big commotion and you're telling us that Yinger has a fiancé? Do you want us to leave just like that? The groom said hoarsely. I know it's difficult to make up for anything, but I'd rather use my life to make up for it. Although my life is lowly, I hope it can satisfy you. I beg you, let my daughter go. As a father, I shouldn't think about the family. I should think about my daughter's happiness. Huang Yinger's father said again. Aren't you afraid that the Great Return realm will be destroyed? The groom said again. This time Huang Yinger's father found it difficult to answer. Huang Yinger said, "My sweetheart is Lin Yi. You can kill me but I love him. I want to be his woman when I'm alive, and his ghost when I'm dead." Anyone could see that she was going to repay him with her life. "You're all muddle-headed." Seeing how stubborn the father and daughter were, the Huang family's elder was completely enraged. He swung his palm at Huang Yinger again. However, this time he was stopped again. It was the groom. The groom looked at him indifferently and then slapped the old man's face. Slap. The crisp sound of the slap stunned the Huang family's elder. Huang Yinger was also stunned. So was her father. In their opinion, they had rejected the groom. Shouldn't the groom vent his anger on them? However, the groom did not explain anything. Instead, he looked at the old man through the mask and said, "Your Excellency, who is Lin Yi?" Lin Yi is a boy from the countryside. He's a toad who wants to eat swan meat. He's poor and weak. His father is also a useless person. He wants to marry Huang Yinger, but he's not worthy of my Yinger. Your Excellency, don't think too much about it. Although Lin Yi and Yinger are a couple, nothing happened between them. Huang Jun said hurriedly. He thought that the groom slapped him because of Lin Yi. Then what about me? The groom asked again. Your Excellency, you're really a capable person. Huang Jun said honestly. He then looked at everyone in the Huang family and asked, "What do you think?" Your Excellency is a dragon among men. There was no doubt that this question was unnecessary because the truth was right in front of them. In fact, everyone in the city thought so. Is that so? Hearing that, the groom laughed sarcastically. He put his palm on the mask and then slowly removed it, revealing a handsome and slightly childish face. "I'm sorry, I'm the trash Lin Yi that you're talking about." When the voice and face appeared, Huang Yinger and the others were stunned. They were as shocked as a celestial being. Chapter 2839. You want to know who I am? In the past, he was the one who took Huang Yinger away. At that time he said to Lin Yi, "Lin Yi, a toad wants to eat swan meat. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for not having a good background and a good father." But now Lin Yi's father had appeared. Huang Jun had seen how terrifying his father was with his own eyes. His father was a great figure who possessed great power not only in the North Territory, but even in the Green Province. The country boy in his mind overlapped with the son of a formidable person. All of this was a fatal blow. Huang Jun knelt down. His face was extremely pale. "You said I don't have a good father. Tell me, what about my father?" Lin Yi looked at Huang Jun condescendingly. Fuck. Huang Jun could not answer. Lin Yi smiled. His smile was cold, but it was also filled with pride. It was as if he had released all the pent-up anger in his heart. Because those who looked down on him, those who looked down on the people of the Rainforest Holy Land, and those who looked down on his father, had all knelt down and admitted defeat. "Let me tell you, you can insult me for not being strong or talented, but you can't insult my father or the Rainforest Holy Land." Fuck. Bang. Lin Yi stomped Huang Jun down and landed his foot on the old man's shoulder, forcefully stomping him into the ground. I was wrong. Fuck. Huang Jun lay on the ground. His heart felt as if it had been cut by a knife. His forehead was covered with cold sweat. Get lost. I won't kill you for Yinger's sake. Yinger will marry me from now on. If the Great Return World dares to stop us, I'll destroy your world. Lin Yi kicked the old man away. The old man did not dare to say anything. He hid behind Lin Yi with his tail between his legs. He finally knew that his life and the life of the Great Return World depended on Yinger's words. Yinger's husband had the ability to dominate everything. At this moment, there was only deep regret in his heart because he knew that no matter how high his seniority was in the clan, he had offended Lin Yi. From today onward, he would no longer be a person of virtue and prestige. For an old man, losing the respect of the younger generation in the family was worse than killing him. This was indeed the case. At least because of Lin Yi, Huang Yinger's father's status was now higher than his. One wrong step had obviously affected Huang Jun's entire life. At this moment, Huang Yinger's eyes were hazy with tears, and the rouge on her face had melted away. Her persistence had finally paid off. Thank you for coming to me. Huang Yinger couldn't hold it in anymore and pounced on Lin Yi. Lin Yi was also very moved. He hadn't announced his identity before, but Ying still chose him. Heaven and earth could bear witness to this. You should thank Father. Lin Ling hugged Huang Yinger and whispered in her ear, reminding Huang Yinger of the kind and gentle Lin Ling whom she had only met once. She had never imagined that her uncle, who treated her like a family member, would treat outsiders so horribly. Moreover, he was so powerful in the martial god realm. Thank you, uncle. Huang Yinger hurriedly looked at the carriage in the distance and said, but Lin Yi suddenly smiled. Uncle? She had changed to calling him father. Yes, I should call him father. Huang Yinger's face immediately turned red. She quickly shouted shyly, Thank you, Dad. Then she was led by Lin Yi to the sedan chair. At this moment she was very happy. Because, from now on, she also had a protective and domineering father. Great. Seeing that her sister had found her happiness, Huang Xian, seemed to be happier than Huang Yinger. Moreover, she was very curious about Lin Yi's father, who she had never met before, but looked down on the world. Was he an old man in his 50s? That should be the case. Because he could summon so many experts, he must not be young. Dong dong dong. Clang clang clang. Clang. At the same time, the joyous sound of gongs, drums, and firecrackers was heard. It was like a silent slap on the faces of Tai Chunyang and his son. They had never expected that the bride would be taken away by someone else, even though Tating Commandery had sent such a big team. I'm so angry. Especially Tai Chunyang. He knew that from now on he could not stay in Tating Commandery anymore. People would only laugh at him. A talented man and a beautiful woman, a match made in heaven. However, what made him even more miserable was that the Emperor of Tating Commandery was also celebrating the arrival of the bride. Without a doubt, the Emperor of Tating Commandery was trying to curry favor with the owner of the carriage. This made Tai Chunyang stunned. Was the Emperor also saying that he was not worthy? This made many people secretly mock the Emperor of Tating Commandery. The Emperor of Tating Commandery was so disgraceful that he did not even dare to say anything when the bride was taken away. Instead, he congratulated the other party. How spineless. However, people stared at the carriage, wondering who this big shot was. Now that the bride was in the sedan chair, it was time for the owner to show up. Among all the people, only Tai Chunyang and his son knew Lin Yi. However, they were still embarrassed and had forgotten who Lin Yi's father was. Haha, I never expected that Tai Shiju of Tating Commandery would take the initiative to curry favor with me. Today, I almost destroyed the commandery for my daughter-in-law. Suddenly, a sarcastic laugh came from the carriage. This shows that your excellency is a true man. This also shows that true love is invincible. Tating Commandery stands on the side of reason and not on the side of family. Everyone can see that the girl likes your excellency's son. Tai Shiju replied with a smile. Although he could hear the sarcasm in his words, the other party was obviously not someone he could provoke. Haha, a dignified emperor. Can't a dog's mouth spit out ivory? However, the owner of the carriage didn't give them any face. He laughed mockingly and said, In fact, I'm here today to snatch the bride and crush your Tating Commandery. Cut the crap. I'm sick of hearing it. Ah. Hearing this, the bridal escort team also laughed. They also felt disgusted. If Tating Commandery was powerful today, would they say this? Obviously they were oppressed by force. Dog's mouth? Does this mean that your majesty is a dog? A dog? Then the bridal escort team laughed even louder. This made the people of Tating Commandery furious. Did this person just call their majesty a dog? Tai Shiju's face turned ugly. He had already given in, but the other party did not give him any face. He said flatly, Take a step back and let the world be clear. Your excellency is so aggressive. I wonder what you want to do. Also, your excellency has been here for so long. Don't you want to show your true face? Ah, you want to know who I am? A voice came from the carriage. Yes. Tai Shiju nodded. He wanted to know even in his dreams. In fact, everyone was extremely curious about the owner of the carriage. When you know who I am, you will regret it. But before that, I should tell you the second reason why I am here. Chapter 2840. Never in their wildest dreams. At this moment, Tating Commandery was in complete silence. People looked at the indifferent young man. Their hearts were pounding and their bodies were trembling. It's Lin Ling. Yes. How could it be him? Yes. Everyone in Tating Commandery was aware of Lin Ling's name. After all, not long ago Lin Ling came with an army and massacred Tating Commandery. He even took away the pride of Tating Commandery and the ancient city walls. Only because of the arrival of a big shot did Lin Ling restrain himself. However, in just a few years Lin Ling came again. It was like a nightmare because this time, it was even more terrifying than the last time. Not to mention Tating Commandery, even Tai Shijue and the two emperors could not stop Lin Ling. Most importantly, the time between the last time and this time was less than 10 years. No one expected him to have such power in just 10 years. Yes, they could not even dream of it. It's him. Right, he's Lin Yi's father. How could I forget? Yes. Tai Chunyang also stared at Lin Ling. Although it was the first time he saw Lin Ling, he reacted quickly and slapped himself hard 3 times. He thought Lin Ling had fallen, so he wanted to humiliate Lin Ling's son. However, he did not expect that he would provoke someone he could not afford to provoke. After Lin Ling became furious, he came to Tating Commandery and was unstoppable. Tai Chunyang was full of regret. He could not afford to provoke Lin Ling. He thought that if he had 3 years he would definitely surpass Lin Ling. But now it seemed like a fool's dream. Even Sun Gu, who he worshipped, did not have such confidence. At this moment he was also at a loss and kept shaking his head. I should have known it was him. But why did one of the 4 holy dwellings in 4-Ring City give him face? Yes. He could not figure it out. As for the lords of Tai Ting Commandery and only Wa Commandery, their bodies trembled as they recalled everything. It was like a dream. A long time ago, a bloodline warrior of the Grand Court Commandery had died in a lower world. At that time, the Commandery had constantly sent out experts to hunt down the murderer. However, the murderer was lucky and had repeatedly escaped from disaster. Instead, he rose step by step and became the most wanted criminal in the Commandery. That was also the first time they had heard of Lin Ling's name. However, the rise of the other party was like the bamboo shoots after the rain. With an unstoppable momentum, he brought his army to the Commandery to wash it in blood. However, compared to the Marquis of 5-Ring City, the latter was still too inexperienced. They also thought that with the Sovereign Marquis around, they would be safe and sound from now on. They didn't have to fear Lin Ling anymore. However, things didn't go as they wished. Now, even the Sovereign Marquis didn't dare to go head-to-head with Lin Ling. If time could turn back, they would definitely choose to appease Lin Ling instead of killing him. Thinking of this, they all smiled bitterly. Especially when they thought of how they had previously curried favor with Lin Ling, this made them feel even more dreamy. They were actually currying favor with the most wanted criminal in the Commandery? Just thinking about it made them feel incredulous. 30 years in the east, 30 years in the west. A junior came from the North Territory with perseverance and stubbornness. In the end he ruled over the 4 commanderies. Tai Shijue couldn't help but admire Lin Ling's achievements. As for the Huang family in the Deyuan realm, although they didn't know who Lin Ling was, they could see from the change in the expressions of the big shots that they were very afraid of this young man. He is Lin Yi's father. He is so young. Huang Yinger's father said in horror. Although Lin Yi didn't have a good background, his background was simply terrifying. Huang Xian covered her small mouth. She had thought that Lin Yi's father would be an old man in his 50s. However, it turned out that he was a young man who didn't look much older than her. The most important thing was that he was able to shock so many people at such a young age. This was also beyond her logic. There was no doubt that when Lin Ling announced his identity, the whole sky seemed to explode. In a distant place, the Sovereign Marquis and the Azure Dragon King had been secretly watching, but their expressions were ugly, extremely ugly. They wanted to kill Lin Ling but they couldn't. They could only watch as Lin Ling's wings grew bigger and bigger. By Xiaoyang, the Black Warrior Divine Manners Mansion Master, Vice Principal Gong, and even Principal Lin of the Resplendent Academy are all here. How can we kill him? The Azure Dragon King's face was dispirited. He was afraid that he would be killed by those experts before he could even get close to Lin Ling. There is also the 8th Jew Lord and the Scarlet Jade Tiger. The Sovereign Marquis's face was also ugly. Previously Lin Ling must have seen them but he turned a blind eye to them. Was this also a demonstration to them? Lin Ling, we were wrong. After a moment of silence, Tai Shijue was the first to speak. He compromised, he admitted defeat. He was completely afraid. My second goal is to destroy your 2 commanderies. Unfortunately, Lin Ling replied indifferently. It was useless to beg for mercy. Lin Ling, we have an agreement to stay out of each other's business. The Sovereign Venerable from my commandery said with a pale face. He even glared at Tai Chunyang. These 2 guys were crazy. They could have snatched anyone's daughter-in-law, but they had to snatch Lin Ling's daughter-in-law. Were they tired of living? Hearing this, Lin Ling laughed. Did these guys still have the qualifications to talk about an agreement? Although Lin Ling wasn't a good person, he always kept his word. But now, the 2 commanderies were the ones who violated the agreement. They were the ones who tried to assassinate him first. Kill? There was no nonsense and no explanation because there was no need to. It was also because Lin Ling had the strength to kill them. Sovereign Marquis, what are you guys looking at? I beg you to come and help. Are you going to let Lin Ling spread his wings and soar? Seeing that Lin Ling was determined to kill him, Tai Shijue immediately shouted. He couldn't stop the experts around Lin Ling. So, he could only ask for help from the powerful forces in 5-Ring City. However, the sovereign marquis and the rest remained silent. This wasn't something they could help with. If they joined in, Lin Ling would even take the opportunity to kill them. Is the heavens going to destroy my commandery? At this moment, the two sovereigns' hearts were dead. Their Tating commandery and only commandery had a history of thousands of years in Jianghu. They had gone through countless ups and downs, but in the end they had survived. But today, was this glory, inheritance, and pride going to disappear in the long river of history? Lin Ling wait. However, at this moment, an old man in golden armor appeared. He came alone, but the moment he appeared, the eyes of Deputy Dean Gong and the rest lit up. Obviously they knew this person. Who are you? Are you going to save them? Lin Ling looked directly at the old man without fear. The old man's face immediately turned ugly. Lin Ling was only at the True God realm, but he was a martial celestial realm expert and a big shot in the Imperial Censor Dragon Court. However, Lin Ling still didn't give him face. But the situation was beyond his control, so he endured it. Chapter 2841. Hostages. Rumble. Along with his voice, golden light blossomed in the sky. An enormous golden dragon with no end in sight descended, circling back and forth. It was extraordinarily majestic, and its golden scales were actually as large as a small house. That surging pressure nearly caused all the martial artists on the ground to kneel down. They knew that the old man's strength was terrifying. The old man had shown his strength and identity because he wanted Lin Ling to show him respect and fear him. Elder Zhu, save me. Tai Shiju looked at the golden dragon as if he was grasping at a life-saving straw. The latter came from Five Ring City and was one of the four magnates. You should be saved. Shiju, I watched you grow up. Are you stupid? Lin Ling is not someone you can offend. However, the mighty golden dragon in the sky scolded Tai Shiju. When the people heard this, their hearts trembled. Even the mysterious golden dragon was afraid of Lin Ling? I was wrong. I regret it so much. I shouldn't have offended Lin Ling. Tai Shiju also knew that the situation was out of his control. He also knew that this senior could not defeat Lin Ling even if he came. This made him very shocked. He even wondered what Lin Ling had done in Five Ring City. You know you were wrong. The golden dragon roared again. The Grand Court Commandery should change its ruler. Shiju, you should prepare to face the wall for 5,000 years. You can't come out until the time is up. Shiju is willing. Tai Shiju said as he knelt down. However, his eyes were filled with unwillingness. Are you done with your bullshit? However, Lin Ling's cold cry drifted out just as the two of them finished speaking. This caused the golden dragon's eyes to narrow. Tai Shiju was the same. What did Lin Ling mean by this? Senior, I don't know you and don't know who you are. However, don't think that I'll give you face just because you're here. Did I say I'll let him go? Lin Ling shouted again. Boom. The people were shocked. Even experts like the Sovereign Marquis were the same. That was because the Great Golden Era Dragon had a powerful background. Even in Five Ring City, many ancient legends had to give him face. Therefore, they thought that Lin Ling was going to compromise and give face to the other party. Moreover, Tai Shiju had also received a corresponding punishment. He was sentenced to face the wall for 5,000 years. However, Lin Ling had no intention of giving him any face at all. It seemed like he still wanted to kill Tai Shiju. This kind of arrogance was simply terrifying. Kid, I know that you've made some achievements and that you've been valued by many legends of the Qing state. However, do you know who I am? The Great Golden Era Dragon was clearly furious, because this was the first time he had met someone who didn't give him face. Who do you think you are? Let me tell you, I, Lin Ling, am a person who will treat others the same way they treat me. I will do what I promised, but if others break their promises, I will retaliate. Every time they try to assassinate me, I will kill them. Not to mention you, old man, even if you magnates are here, I will not give you any face. Lin Ling said word by word. His words were firm and unwavering. Moreover, Vice Principal Gong and some people from the Imperial Court sent me a message asking me to let go of the Grand Court County. After all, there are too many innocent people. I agreed to their request, but there is a condition. The county must be disintegrated and His Majesty must die. Then everyone will be able to escape. Oomph. Lin Ling said again as if he was the ruler of the Qing state. The Great Golden Era Dragon was completely furious. He had given Suemo a lot of face, but who knew that not only did Suemo not give him face, but he even treated him like an ant. You don't need to you, and me. I also want to remind you that today's matter has nothing to do with you. Don't get involved in this mess. It will not only bring you no benefit but also harm you. Lin Ling said again. This time it was a threat. A junior of the true immortal realm was threatening the oldest existence in the Qing state? Lin Ling, how domineering. At this moment there was no one who wasn't moved. From the first ring city to the second ring city, all the way to the fifth ring city, everyone who was secretly watching felt their hearts explode. Good, good, good. I want to see how you will not give me face. Roar. The great golden era dragon also roared. He was a person of virtue and prestige in the imperial court, and Lin Ling was highly valued by the imperial court. He did not believe that his reputation and status were lower than Lin Ling's. After saying that, he looked at the people of the Grand Court County and shouted angrily, "Your ancestor and I were close friends. Although he has passed away, you are half of my descendants. Today, as long as I am here, you will not die." Obviously he was going to fight against Lin Ling. He did not believe that a junior could make waves in front of him. To put it bluntly, when he was cultivating, Lin Ling was still reincarnated. When he had seen the rise and fall of the two Qing emperors in the Great Azure Divine Dynasty, Lin Ling did not know what the stable district Divine Dynasty was. Men kill Tai Shijue. Hearing this, Lin Ling's eyes turned red. He was going to risk it all. He was assassinated, and his daughter-in-law was snatched away by the Grand Court County. This great golden era dragon did not come out to uphold justice. He came to collect the debt, but the other party was in the right and insisted on going against him. Then he would fight with him. "Senior Zhu, please excuse me." Hearing Lin Ling's words, Bai Xiaoyang looked indifferently at the great golden era dragon. Although the latter's status and strength were higher than his backer was Grandma Wendao. Lin Ling's words were equivalent to Grandma Wendao's words. How could he not obey? Seeing him walk out, the Black Warrior Divine Manners Mansion Master did the same. Gradually, the 8th Jew Lord, Red Jade Tiger, Sunset Glory, and other ancient experts also walked out. This huge momentum directly suppressed the sky to the extreme. World essence went berserk, and the Azure province was filled with billowing smoke. No one expected Lin Ling to have grown to this extent. Was he still the genius of the Resplendent Academy? He was simply an ambitious and ruthless sovereign of the Qing prefecture. "I don't want to die, I definitely can't die." Looking at the terrifying situation, Tai Shijue was so scared that he lost his mind. This was because he did not trust Elder Zhu. The main reason was that the Imperial Dragon Court only sent out one person. Obviously, the Imperial Dragon Court did not want to bother with him. Run. Only the sovereign realm sovereign of the Azure province roared. None of them wanted to die here. However, it was obviously impossible to escape from the hands of so many experts. Therefore their gazes fell on the people from the Huang family. Swoosh. No one thought that they would flee in the face of danger, even abandoning their respective counties. When they caught the people from the Huang family, everyone finally reacted. "Get out of the way or I'll kill them." "Lin Ling, they are your in-laws, you don't want them to die, right?" The two emperors were ruthless people and they would do anything to survive. Chapter 2842. The Angry Lin Ling. "Your Majesty." The people of Tating Commandery started to shout in surprise. "Shut up. I, Tai Shijue, have sacrificed so much for Tating Commandery. But why am I the only one to be punished after offending Lin Ling? 5,000 years of solitary confinement. How many years do we have in our lives?" Tai Shijue roared hysterically. "Get out of the way or don't blame me for killing them. Only the emperor of my commandery could not wait to leave this place." They took the hostages and retreated quietly in the sky. Hearing their words, everyone in Tating Commandery knelt down. Was this the emperor that they had worshipped all their lives? Their hearts suddenly ached. As for the golden great era dragon in the sky, he was also stunned. Previously he had risked his life to protect Tai Shijue and the others. But now, Tai Shijue and the others had ignored him and the millions of people in Tating Commandery for their own sake. At this moment he felt that he had helped the wrong person. "Did I allow you to leave?" However, Lin Ling's cold voice also floated out. "Hehe, Lin Ling, you are ruthless and powerful. I, Tai Shijue, am afraid of you. However, are you going to give up on their lives?" Tai Shijue looked at Lin Ling ferociously. His palm turned into a claw and pierced through the chest of the middle-aged man in front of him. The middle-aged man immediately spat out a mouthful of blood, his face ashen, and was then thrown towards Lin Ling by Tai Shijue. "If you force me again, I'll kill one more." Tai Shijue shouted cruelly as he held the remaining people hostage and charged into the distance. The middle-aged man's figure floated down from the sky, and the life in his eyes gradually dissipated. However, his weak voice drifted out, Father can be considered a man this time, right?" This middle-aged man was Huang Yinger's father. "Father." Huang Ying'er immediately rushed out of the bridal sedan, and so did Huang Xian'er in the distance. They were already in tears. Ever since their mother's death, their father seemed to have changed into a different person. He no longer cared for them and left them to fend for themselves. Even when their families wanted to form an alliance through marriage, their father never objected. This made them hate their father to death. But before this, under the oppression of the major powers, their father had stepped out for the first time, and it was also the first time he had protected them. And now he was dead. But this time he was no longer a coward. He was a real man. Father. After Huang Ying'er and the others rushed over, they hurriedly hugged the middle-aged man. Their hearts felt as if they had been cut by a knife. Hee, I've let you down all these years. Fortunately, the heavens have arranged for an elder to take care of you. He will do better than me. A gratified smile appeared on the middle-aged man's face. It was as if the matter that he couldn't let go of the most in his heart had been resolved. His eyes gradually closed and Huang Ying'er hurriedly looked at Lin Ling. Save my father. At this moment, Lin Ling's expression was extremely ugly. He angrily stared at the golden Grand Era dragon in the sky. It was because of him that this tragic scene had occurred. Then he shot towards Huang Ying'er and took out a large number of treasures. He wanted to save the middle-aged man, but in the end, he shook his head helplessly because the middle-aged man's life force had already dissipated. Uncle Lin Ling. Seeing this, Huang Ying'er looked at Lin Ling in pain and kept kowtowing. Her sister did the same. In their opinion, Lin Ling was their god. Lin Ling was omnipotent. Father. Ling. Lin Yi and ancestor Taiyan also ran over, but Lin Ling lowered his head and gritted his teeth in silence. He felt very uncomfortable. Although he had only met the middle-aged man once, the middle-aged man was Huang Ying'er's father, and Huang Ying'er was half his daughter-in-law, and his family. Therefore, he felt a little guilty that he couldn't save his family. Kunlun. However, at this moment, Lin Ling's arm made a bell-like sound. Then, the inconspicuous vine wrapped around the middle-aged man like a small snake. Rays of golden light sprinkled down, and the middle-aged man's lifeless face gradually regained its color. Little Kunlun. Seeing this, Lin Ling was shocked. When did this little guy wake up? Moreover, those golden lights? Wasn't that the light he saw at the Copper Sparrow Terrace? Did this little guy have the ability to save people? Lin Ling was suddenly dumbfounded. However, Huang Ying'er and the others thought that it was Lin Ling's doing. They kowtowed to Lin Ling and cried tears of joy. They also saw that their father was quietly recovering, and in the end he even coughed. Huang Xian'er was so excited that she kissed Lin Ling on the cheek. Lin Ling shook his head helplessly because he didn't know that little Kunlun had such an ability. Take him to the back to rest. Seeing that the middle-aged man had survived the crisis, Lin Ling waved his hand lightly, but his eyes were cold as he looked at the sky. Very well, you have completely angered me. His words were obviously directed at the golden Great Era dragon. Lin Ling, I'm sorry, I didn't know this would happen. For some reason, seeing the cold eyes, the golden Great Era dragon was a little frightened. He didn't know why he was panicking. But he knew that Lin Ling was going to do something crazy. Ying'er, do you hate those people from the Huang family? Lin Ling looked at Huang Ying'er, but Huang Ying'er shook her head. She was simple and obedient, so she didn't understand the meaning of Lin Ling's words, but her sister was a smart person. She quickly said, I hate them, they have been bullying our family. This time, it was Huang Jun's idea to let Ying'er marry into the Grand Court Commandery. That's good. Lin Ling nodded and his emotionless eyes looked into the distance. Senior Bai Xiaoyang, I'll have to trouble you to kill them all. Ah, I've been waiting for you to say that. Bai Xiaoyang understood and disappeared on the spot. The Black Warrior Divine Mansion Master looked at Xian Linglong, and seeing her nod, he also disappeared on the spot. As for Luo Riyao and the others, they naturally understood Lin Ling's meaning. Tai Shiju and the others kidnapped the Huang family, but these people were obviously not Huang Ying'er's relatives, so what did their life and death have to do with them? Lin Ling, you. The great golden era dragon in the sky also noticed Lin Ling's actions and knew that the hostages held by the Grand Ten Extremes were useless. You shut up, because of you, my people almost died. Let me tell you, my people's lives are more precious than a commandery. Unfortunately, Lin Ling directly reprimanded him, making everyone's jaws drop. Now who was the senior? However, what surprised everyone was that this time, the golden great era dragon didn't refute, as if he knew that he was in the wrong. Bang bang bang. Chapter 2843. Annihilation. His Majesty has passed away. Looking at the head, the entire Tating commandery cried out in grief. Everyone knelt down. They did not expect that after so many twists and turns, His Majesty would not be able to escape death. His Majesty of Tating Commandery had been passed down for 10,000 years. People had guessed that His Majesty would rule for 100,000 years. Unfortunately, 10,000 years was his limit. Lin Ling, you killed His Majesty. Then, everyone in Tating Commandery roared at Lin Ling. Their eyes were as red as blood. You're the devil. Oh my God, how did Tating Commandery offend a devil like you? You're heartless. Angry curses rang out one after another, causing the world to be filled with endless resentment. Haha, curse, curse, curse as much as you want. You are a group of foolishly loyal people. Your Majesty caused this trouble himself, but you have to shoulder it. He even abandoned you before and left. Are you still feeling sorry for him? Seeing this, Lin Ling laughed out loud. His blue robe fluttered in the air as he mocked the people in the world. You'll die a horrible death. People were even more furious. Haha, pitiful, sad. I've said it before. My people are more precious than your whole country. My people almost died before, but I won't make the same mistake again. Lin Ling laughed even more wildly. He looked at the people as if he was looking down on the world. His gaze fell on all his family members. He was a devil? People said he was a devil, then he was a devil. He only needed to protect those around him. Why should he care about the opinions of passers-by? Annihilate the commandery. When Lin Ling's last words were heard, all the curses disappeared. Everyone was shocked and stunned. Over at Five Ring City, the big shots were also stunned. The four great commanderies were ancient divine kingdoms that existed in the same era as the Great Green Divine Dynasty. They worshipped the Great Green Divine Dynasty, revered the Great Green Divine Dynasty, and became its allies. But now, these ancient divine kingdoms were about to be destroyed. The person who annihilated it was not an authority in Qingzhou, nor was it Emperor Qing. It was a junior. A young man who had turned into a demon for his family. Kill. The 6 armies had been waiting for this sentence for a long time. The rolling army finally moved out. On the periphery, the powerhouses of Square Commandery and the other 2 commanderies also moved out. They joined forces to kill all the commanderies. Today the country would be destroyed. Haha, laugh, laugh all you want. And in the sky, Lin Ling was like a demon. His long hair danced wildly in the wind, and he spread open his arms, laughing at the common people. How dare you? The great Golden Era dragon was in complete chaos. Tating Commandery was half his descendant. Was Lin Ling going to slaughter his descendants? Kill? However, Lin Ling took a step forward and stood in front of the Grand Golden Dragon. His tiny figure fearlessly stood against the ancient dragon. You still don't know your mistake? Because Vice Principal Gong pleaded for mercy, I spared the 2 commanderies. Every injustice has its perpetrator, and every debt has its debtor. I only wanted the commandery's Majesty's order. But you protected them because of your principles, and in the end, innocent people were almost implicated. Now, the people of the 2 commanderies died because of you. Wake up. If you hadn't done those things, today's grievances would have been over. Lin Ling's voice was like thunder, and it made the great Golden Era dragon stop in his tracks. His eyes were filled with pain. Am I the one who harmed the descendants of my best friend? The great Golden Era dragon turned into an old man. He held his head with both hands and seemed to be in extreme pain. If he hadn't shown up, Lin Ling would have only killed 2 majesties. But his appearance had given the 2 majesties the opportunity to implicate others, and Lin Ling was completely enraged. And Lin Ling, in his fury, had slaughtered the commanderies. Do you think I'll give you face just because you're an ancient myth? Open your eyes and take a look. After your arrival, who has more people in this world? Lin Ling roared at him. Hearing this, the old man looked around. All around him were Lin Ling's people, the Bright Academy, and even the Imperial Court. Not a single person from Imperial Censor Longting came. Obviously, Imperial Censor Longting thought that his status was not as high as Lin Ling's. Lin Ling's status in the Imperial Court was higher than his. I've already given you enough face. Otherwise, the moment you appeared, I would have killed you. Lin Ling shouted angrily again. In fact, you're very pitiful, but you're pleading for them? Do they appreciate it? They'll only kill more people. Do they appreciate it when I was lenient and intended to spare the people of Tating Commandery? They're calling me a demon. In that case, I'll fulfill their wishes. I, Lin Ling, am a demon. Lin Ling's voice was louder and louder. The great Golden World Dragon could only look at the dead people helplessly. Lin Ling, spare our lives. We were wrong. The people of Tating Commandery were all shouting. They regretted it and their hearts were bleeding. Lin Ling had given them face, but they didn't accept it. They were still unwilling to accept the death of their emperor. They seemed to have forgotten who was in charge of Tating Commandery at the moment. They called Lin Ling a demon, and Lin Ling became a demon because of them. Kill all of them. This was the style of killing demons. Swoosh. In the ancient Holy Kingdom, blood flowed like a river. The warriors who were watching from afar were frightened and trembling. They looked at the young man in the sky and finally knew how ruthless he was. This was an emperor who would not hesitate to destroy thousands of worlds for a peaceful place in his heart. The only people he cared about were the people around him. As for the people who participated in the massacre, they were soldiers. They were led by Lin Ling and only listened to Lin Ling's orders. Therefore they were ruthless and they killed without mercy. Most importantly, they knew that Lin Ling was a man of principle. It was Tating Commandery who went back on their word first. If Lin Ling wasn't lucky, he wouldn't have been the one to die today. Lin Ling would have been the sacred place of the rainforest. Sometimes, the reason in the world was so simple. You came to kill me. If I didn't die, I would kill your whole family. Rumble. The earth continued to shake and blood stained the earth red. Countless wronged souls disappeared in the universal law and entered the cycle of reincarnation in the underworld. In the ancient country, wreckage and corpses were everywhere. Gradually, the screams and cries of pain became fewer and fewer. In the sky, the setting sun was as red as blood. There was only one figure floating there. His blue robe had turned into a blood-red robe. His long hair danced wildly and he was unruly. His gaze was firm, unruly and proud. Even if he was haunted by countless wronged souls, even if he had killed too many people, he was still fearless and fearless in the face of the heavens. This was Lin Ling. Father. Looking at the proud man in the sky, Ancestor Taiyan and the others had tears in their eyes because they knew who Lin Ling was destroying the country for. Moreover, Lin Ling had made the mistake of letting the tiger return to the mountain in the past. Therefore Lin Ling wouldn't make the same mistake again. However, Lin Ling had shouldered everything including the debt of blood. However, this man of indomitable spirit was never afraid. Chapter 28:44. Congratulations from all the experts. At this moment, whether it was the warriors who were watching from afar or the ancient legends of the great Qing divine dynasty, they were all looking at the Tating Commandery. However, the ancient buildings that had stood for thousands of years had disappeared and turned into ruins. It's over, it's all over. There were only two people from Tating and Tating Commandery who were still alive. They were Sunbone and Luo Shathorn from Qingzhou. They had escaped. Moreover, they were not as popular as Lin Ling. However, it would be difficult for Lin Ling to kill them because they were experts from the great Qing divine dynasty and had powerful giants supporting them. Therefore Lin Ling's men could not kill them. But at this moment, their eyes were bloodshot. They had to avenge the destruction of their country. Lin Ling, I don't believe that these experts will always be by your side. Sunbone will kill you. Sunbone secretly swore a blood oath, and then disappeared without a trace. In the merciless world of martial arts, powerful strength was the main theme. Today, Lin Ling destroyed his country because he was powerful. In time, when he became the son of the true dragon, he would definitely pay with blood. This was also the principle of the world. As for the Marquis of Sovereign Justice and the others, they left with complicated feelings. Dead, they are all dead, Lin Ling. After the pain, the great golden era dragon stared at Lin Ling with hatred. His powerful aura burst out, and his golden dragon claws appeared and clawed at Lin Ling. It could be seen that he had already lost his mind and wanted to kill Lin Ling even if he had to die. Come and kill me. However, Lin Ling was not afraid at all. He looked straight at him. At the critical moment, the great golden era dragon finally stopped. He did not dare to kill him. Now, Lin Ling was not just a simple genius. The relationship behind him was complicated, and it was related to the emperor's fate. Therefore, if he was killed, it would affect the whole situation. This was also the reason why the giants were worried. Ah! The old man roared and spat out a mouthful of blood. He could only leave into the distance. Lin Ling asked that senior to kill him, but he didn't dare to kill him. Lin Ling, who else could it be but me? The hearts of the people in the distance trembled. Today's Lin Ling made them see him in a new light. He even gave them the feeling that Lin Ling was a giant that couldn't be provoked. However, they also knew that the great Azure Divine Dynasty was as deep as the ocean. Lin Ling had snatched the Azure Thearcha's jade seal, and he definitely had other secrets. This made the magnates of the great Azure Divine Dynasty hesitate to attack Lin Ling. Before they could confirm everything, they did not dare to attack Lin Ling. Go back. Then Lin Ling's cold voice floated out. Dong dong dong. Dong dong dong. Almost at the same time, the sound of gongs, drums and firecrackers rang out. The huge wedding procession took the bridal sedan and headed off into the distance. The people were shocked. Lin Ling was still in the mood to welcome the bride? This wedding could be said to be the most extravagant in the history of the Great Azure Divine Dynasty. While marrying his daughter-in-law, he's going to destroy the country. This Lin Ling! Exclamations of surprise rang out. The people had never seen such a heroic person. They could only say that Lin Ling was not someone they could provoke. Woo-woo! Lonely souls cried, lonely for eternity. The once glorious Grand Court Commandery had become a land of death due to the deaths of too many people. Those who were weak would even feel chills all over their body, as if they were being watched by something. They would be scared to leave this place. TSK, what a great grievance. The heavens and earth were silent for a long time. Suddenly, the sound of a crow crying could be heard. Then, a black shadow wandered around the land of death like the wind, adding to the horrifying scene. Ah, no soul refining? Sir, please spare us. The horrifying thing was that the black shadow was wreaking havoc on the souls. It should be known that the souls should enter the cycle of reincarnation and be reincarnated. However, the black shadow had bound a large number of souls and prevented them from being reincarnated. Instead, it was devouring their souls, causing endless grievance. If Lin Ling destroyed the country, it would be too heartless. However, this person was obviously even more heartless because he was disrupting the laws of the universe and making the dead unable to rest in peace. My Son of Heaven's mandate requires the souls of the wronged. The sound of a crow crying could be heard again. It was cold and bloodthirsty. Then a black shadow appeared, holding a broken jade piece in his hand. At this moment, the jade piece was emitting a black light as if it was transforming into a black jade seal. The Azure Emperor's jade seal. This was obviously another Son of Heaven's mandate. Killing one is a sin, killing 10,000 is a hero. In the past, the Azure Emperor destroyed 3,600 worlds in the east boundary and 1,200 worlds in the west boundary for the Azure Emperor's jade seal. How can I, a rising star, be weaker than him? The process of being crowned as an emperor has never been smooth. How can he be called the Son of Heaven if he is soft-hearted? After devouring the surrounding souls, the black shadow disappeared and headed for the myriad worlds. He was like a reaper from the underworld. Compared to the gloominess of this place, Second Ring City was extremely lively because Lin Ling's son was getting married. Many famous people in Qing Prefecture had come. Even though it was a joyous occasion, all the giants had to give face. This showed how important Lin Ling was in Qing Prefecture. In fact, many giants knew that this was only a junior at the true immortal realm. It was very likely that he had the Son of Heaven's mandate in his hands. Of course, this was only their guess. However, those with the Son of Heaven's mandate were not to be underestimated. They also had the chance to become the Azure Emperor. Resplendent Academy. Grand Council Hall. Acquaintances came to visit one after another, causing Ancestor Extreme Flame and the others to be overwhelmed by the favor. Especially when he saw some seniors with white beards and walking with crutches. Ancestor Extreme Flame knew that in terms of age, he was probably one generation older than these seniors. Therefore he respectfully addressed him as senior. Because he knew that these fellows' lifespans were probably limitless. Who knew that it would have been better if he hadn't called them that. Once he did, those fellows who looked as old as Mount Nanshan all panicked. You're Lin Ling's grandfather, right? Heavens, don't call me senior. I should be the one calling you senior. That's right, that's right. If Lin Ling knows that you're bowing to us, he'll definitely kill us. Elder, please spare our lives. The seniors who looked even older than Ancestor Extreme Flame all waved their hands and pleaded. This time, Ancestor Extreme Flame was stunned. He really wanted to say that they were indeed older than him. However, when he saw that they were on the verge of tears, he held himself back. Haha, brother Extreme Flame, in Qing Prefecture, strength is everything. Although they're older than you, your grandson is too frightening. He can destroy a country at the slightest disagreement. That's why they wouldn't dare call themselves seniors in front of you. Vice Dean Gong walked over and explained with a smile. I see. Ancestor Extreme Flame also understood. The so-called senior was actually based on strength, not age. However, when he saw a bunch of people older than him call him big brother or senior, his heart was filled with bitterness. Chapter 28:45. Grandma Wendao has arrived. As for Lin Ling, he was busy to the point that he was both mentally and physically exhausted. However, he was very happy. Because he saw that his son had a family and his daughter-in-law was so obedient. Most importantly, he had resolved one of his worries because he knew that Tating Commandery and Solitude Commandery were ticking time bombs. They could bite Lin Ling at any time. If one day Lin Ling disappeared, Lin Ling would be missing, then his family and friends would be dead. At that time, the two commanderies would not be soft-hearted. Therefore he had to deal with them first to avoid any future troubles. Lin Ling, you don't have to blame yourself. In this world there are many things, but there are many people. Everything is fated. Perhaps the people of Tating Commandery did something bad in their previous life and that's why they are suffering from karma in this life. Or perhaps, after they die, they will be reincarnated into a good family. Vice Principal Gong's voice floated in Lin Ling's ears. Lin Ling shook his head and smiled. Vice Principal Gong thought that he would have a knot in his heart and was comforting him. However, the latter had underestimated his experience. Moreover, these words of comfort were too fake, weren't they? There were so many people in Tating Commandery. It was impossible for everyone to have done something bad. How could there be any karma? Of course, Lin Ling still smiled at Vice Principal Gong. Beside him was the principal of Resplendent Academy. At this moment she was also smiling at Lin Ling. Lin Ling nodded at her. This time, Lin Ling did not reject the principal's arrival in order to intimidate Qingzhou. The principal obviously wanted to retain her relationship with Lin Ling, so she took the initiative to come. After helping Lin Ling, the grudge between Lin Ling and her was written off. Lin Suizan had thought of this as well, and she was very excited. This time she did not make the wrong choice. The third prince of the imperial court has arrived. At this moment, a majestic voice was heard and everyone's eyes lit up. The third prince of the imperial court was one of the four magnates. He was also the descendant of Emperor Qing. Then a man wearing a mask walked in. Everyone greeted him with a smile and did not dare to neglect him. Obviously, everyone knew the man's strength and charisma. What they did not expect was that such a person would come in person for Lin Ling. No wonder Lin Ling was not afraid of the golden great era dragon. He was indeed confident. Congratulations, congratulations, the man said in a hoarse voice. He waved his hand and presented the congratulatory gift. Lin Yi Huanginger and the others were also flattered and quickly bowed. Third Prince, Your Excellency. Lin Ling too, he was slightly as he did not expect the great Lin Suizan. Your Excellency, you are so straightforward. You destroyed a country in anger. There are not many people in Qingzhou who are as carefree as you, the man said indifferently. However, Lin Ling knew that the third prince was just in disguise. The third prince was actually a fairy-like person. I, Lin Ling, am like this. I treat people the same way they treat me. If there is any cause and effect, I, Lin Ling, will bear it alone, Lin Ling said with a smile. He sensed that the third prince was complaining, as if he felt that Lin Ling had made too much of a fuss. Hearing this, the man smiled and did not say anything. It was obvious that he was just complaining, but he did not care. However, she did not expect Lin Ling to be more carefree than she had imagined. He was a man who dared to take responsibility for his actions. If an ordinary person did such a big thing, they would be eager to flatter the imperial court. However, Lin Ling chose to bear it alone. He even secretly told the third prince that this matter had nothing to do with the imperial court. The third prince could not help but look at the people around Lin Ling with a hint of envy in his eyes. This was a man who dared to go against the world for his loved ones and family. Then everyone started to exchange pleasantries. Night fell. Lin Ling walked with Yu Yu and the others, feeling the tranquility of the night. Lin Ling looked at the distant sky, his eyes flashing constantly. No one knew what he was thinking. Yu Yu and the others did not disturb Lin Ling. They quietly accompanied him. In their eyes, Lin Ling was like the sky above the clouds, looking at the common people. When they thought of the destruction of Tating Commandery, they sighed. It was not that they sympathized with Tating Commandery because they were not stupid. They knew that Tating Commandery was a ticking time bomb that would explode sooner or later. They were sighing because of Lin Ling's achievements. When they came to Qing province in the past, they were as insignificant as ants. They never thought that there would be a day when they could move their feet in Qing province and shake the ancient legends. Now they had clearly gained a firm foothold in Qing province. Wow, little Li, you're still as impulsive as ever. At this moment, 3 people walked over from the distant sky. Grandma Wendao had finally arrived, followed by Sakura and the cloaked man Su. Second brother, you're famous in Qing province now. Everyone calls you Overlord Lin Ling. Sakura was the first to laugh and present a congratulatory gift. Because of Grandma Wendao's identity, it was not appropriate for them to show their faces. Because in Qing province, there were people who even Grandma Wendao was afraid of. At this moment, they were secretly watching Grandma Wendao. That's right. Whoever provokes us will kill them all. However, compared to Lin Ling's arrogance, Sakura was obviously more ruthless. If he was present at that time, not to mention the people of the two commanderies, even those who were related to the two commanderies, he would have killed them all. He would not leave behind any future troubles. Because if he left behind any future troubles, the ones who would suffer would be the people around him. Grandma, big brother, you're here. Lin Ling was instantly delighted and personally welcomed the arrival of the three people. Grandma. Yu Yu and the others also knew Grandma Wendao and could not help but shout in surprise. Haha, the little girl of the past is becoming more and more feminine today. Grandma Wendao smiled kindly and said, You've also accompanied little Li for a long time. When will you let me accompany you for a day of romance? Grandma. Hearing this, Yu Yu and the others naturally knew that Grandma Wendao was joking. However, they also held Grandma Wendao's hands like children and acted coquettishly. Ah. Grandma Wendao smiled. With Yu Yu and the others around, she would not be so presumptuous. Everyone then sat down and poured fragrant tea. They chatted and laughed with each other. Oh right, Grandma, my emperor's fate has changed a little. Grandma. As if he had thought of something, Lin Ling quickly took out the emperor's fate. In the end, he was shocked when he saw it. Because 1/3 of the broken Imperial Jade Seal fragments had actually turned into an Imperial Jade Seal. You brat. Grandma. Even Grandma Wendao was shocked. According to the legend of the 20 Emperor's fate, whoever whose Imperial Jade Seal fragment turned into the Azure Emperor's Imperial Jade Seal would dominate Qing province and possess ancient power. Chapter 2846. Bad news. I don't know why it has become like this. Lin Ling smiled bitterly. Then he suddenly understood. Not long ago he slaughtered the people of the two commanderies. Could it be because of this? It seems that your Imperial Jade Seal fragment depends on killing. Grandma. Grandma Wendao also guessed the reason. Because in this period of time, the only thing Lin Ling did was to destroy a country. You're really lucky. Grandma. Grandma Wendao could not help but sigh and shake her head. Do you know? The previous Emperor Qing also obtained the Imperial Jade Seal fragment by killing. Later, he slaughtered countless people and finally became the Emperor Qing. Grandma. Master, is my second brother the most likely to become the Emperor Qing? Grandma. Hearing this, Sakura could not help but feel happy for Lin Ling. He was a person who did not look out for himself. What he cared about was Lin Ling and the others. Other ants had nothing to do with him. However, Lin Ling frowned. Unless he was infuriated, he had many people who liked to kill. Take the two commanderies for example. If they had not completely infuriated Lin Ling, how could Lin Ling have destroyed them? From what I know of the Imperial Jade Seal fragments, Little Li's Imperial Jade Seal fragment is indeed the easiest. Although the destiny of this Imperial Jade Seal fragment is to kill, the universe is fair. If the person who holds this Imperial Jade Seal fragment kills the world, the universe will punish them based on their good and evil. Good people will be rewarded with good in the next life, evil people will be punished with evil in the next life. Moreover, the holder will not receive the punishment of the universe. Grandma Wen explained with a smile. Hearing this, Lin Ling's eyes kept flickering. Does this mean that if they were killed by him, it would be a kind of relief for those who did good things, and they would have more good luck in the next life? And if they did many bad things and died in Lin Ling's hands, then they would be unlucky. In the next life they would be so miserable that they would want to die. They would be reincarnated as dogs, pigs and so on. But even so, Lin Ling still curled his lips. Is this making him a world purifier? To be honest, he was not very interested. Could it be that the 24 Imperial Jade Seal fragments require different powers? After thinking for a while, Lin Ling suddenly asked curiously. That's right. Each of the 24 Imperial Seals has a different destiny. Only the one who fulfills the destiny will have fulfilled the rules set by the deity and become the Azure Emperor. Grandma Wendao nodded. The Son of Heaven's mandate that I know of, some are very difficult. For example, there is one that requires you to collect vengeful spirits. You have to know that not every dead person is a vengeful spirit. Another one is to do good deeds, and the number of good deeds that need to be done is not small. There's also the Monarch's Descent Light, which means that he has to make millions of people admire him. These Imperial Jade Seal fragments are very difficult to obtain. Hearing this, Lin Ling's mouth twitched. It sounded very difficult. After all, doing good deeds or gaining the admiration of the world was not as simple as killing people. I don't want to be a murderous demon. Big brother, I'll give you this Jade Seal fragment. Lin Ling said again. You're asking for a beating? Seeing this, Grandma Wendao's eyes twitched. She almost wanted to give Lin Ling a good beating. There were only 24 Son of Heaven's mandate. Others would want to snatch one, but this guy actually gave it away so casually. That won't do. Second brother, you can have the Son of Heaven's mandate. That's also predestined. It's a rule set by the deity. I don't dare to violate this rule. Sakura hurriedly waved his hand and smiled. To be honest, I'm very tempted by the Azure Emperor's position. However, I can snatch it from others. Anyway, I definitely don't want your Son of Heaven's mandate. Sakura's ambition was bigger than Lin Ling's. He was born with the Emperor's bone. Lin Ling, on the other hand, was free and easy. He liked to be free and unrestrained. The two brothers' pursuits were different. What deities rule? The Son of Heaven's mandate is in my hands. I can give it to whoever I want. It's none of the deity's business. Lin Ling curled his lips and said. However, when he saw Grandma Wendao's fierce glare, he finally kept the Imperial Jade Seal fragment. All right, let's not talk about the Son of Heaven's mandate. Shaoli, you've destroyed 2 large commanderies. Now the Great Azure Divine Dynasty's attention is on you. You have to be more careful because the Great Azure Divine Dynasty is much bigger than you think. Grandma Wendao warned. Lin Ling nodded. After that, the crowd stopped talking about other things. Instead, they talked about some trivial matters. The night passed just like that. The next day, the rainforest market was still bustling. However, just as the sun shone on the entrance of the market, an anxious figure rushed into the market. Lin Ling, are you here? The person who came was Red Jade Tiger. Seeing his anxious face, the crowd had an ominous premonition. They quickly informed Lin Ling. Lin Ling, you have to calm down. Something has happened. After Lin Ling, Yu and the rest walked out, Red Jade Tiger looked at Lin Ling seriously. Lin Ling frowned. He also noticed that Red Jade Tiger's face was very serious and even ugly. Sir, tell me. Lin Ling also had an ominous premonition. In the North Territory, 365 territories were massacred last night. One of them was the Great Return Territory, the Rainforest Sacred Land. Red Jade Tiger looked at the crowd and said word by word. Boom. As soon as he finished speaking, the faces of Ancestor Taiyin and the rest changed drastically. Deng deng deng. Lin Ling took a few steps back and even turned pale. This was because the ones who stayed in the Rainforest Sacred Land were Lord Shui Wu and the rest. They were Lin Ling's friends. Why did this happen? Could it be Sun Bone and the rest? Lin Ling's eyes turned red. He was like a ferocious tiger that was about to devour its prey. Calm down. This matter should have nothing to do with them. They aren't that stupid to fight you at this time. It won't do them any good. Chiyuhu said. The news came from the war god camp. Many realms were destroyed. The Rainforest Sacred Land was only one of them. Moreover, the myriad realms around the Qing province, Western world, and Southern world also had many realms destroyed. Countless people died. As for the reason, no one knows. The great Qing divine dynasty guessed that the mantis demons were born in the myriad territories. They killed for a living, so they massacred the territories. Red Jade Tiger continued to speak. However, Lin Ling's eyes flashed. He suddenly remembered Grandma Wendao's words. The 20 emperors' fates were all different. Could this be the reason? However, no matter what the reason was. At this moment, Lin Ling's heart was in pain. He closed his eyes and a line of tears flowed out. Lord Shuewu. In the Rainforest Sacred Land, there were many people who wanted to kill him, but she had repeatedly protected him. The 7 sovereigns. In the great calamity of the world, when the demon race and the god race had invaded, Lin Ling had nearly been killed several times. It was also the 7 sovereigns who had appeared to save him. 7 Profound Martial House, Heaven Mystics Kingdom, Ancient Face Sect. Profound Peng, Profound Essence, Profound Yellow, the 3 profound realms of the human world. Here Lin Ling had too many friends, too many memories. But now they had all been turned to ashes. Chapter 2847. Gil. Let's go back. Thinking of this, Lin Ling roared angrily and strode out of the market. Ancestor Extreme Flame and the others did the same. Their eyes were wet. Their home had been destroyed. The Rainforest Sacred Land, an unknown domain in the North Territory. However, at this moment, it was like a corner abandoned by heaven and earth. The lonely wind blew as if it was telling of the glory of the past. The huge mythical statue collapsed, and the statue was carved with the pride of the Rainforest Sacred Land, Lin Ling. When a group of people appeared in the sky, they saw the ground dyed red with blood. They did not even see a corpse. It seemed that the people of the Rainforest Sacred Land were not only dead, but even their corpses were not spared. If Lin Ling's destruction of a kingdom was an earth-shattering event, then the destruction of a world was even more heartless and horrifying. At this moment, the laws of the universe seemed to be flowing. The common people, their life, age, and death were just one of the ruthless laws. No. Looking at the lonely city and the silent world, Ancestor Extreme Flame was the first to let out a roar. Then he completely fainted. Who is it? Lin Yi Emonienchen, and the others also roared, each of them heartbroken. At this moment, the only people who were still alive in the rainforest's sacred land were the Lin family's relatives. And they saw that in the ruined city, there were extinguished lanterns swaying, and the lanterns were pasted with the word Shi. In the rainforest's sacred land, they wanted to celebrate Lin Yi's wedding, but this wish was not fulfilled. Lin Ling gritted his teeth and let the merciless wind blow past his cheeks. At this moment he realized that the world was so oppressive, and the wind was so cold. Bang! He rushed into the lonely city like a madman, wanting to find his acquaintances. Unfortunately, the city was empty and his old friends were not there. He disappeared on the spot and appeared in the Heaven Mystic's kingdom. However, the place seemed to have been defeated for 1,000 years, and there was only the lonely wind. He appeared in the Ancient Face sect, the first sect that had left him with endless memories. At this moment, the Ancient Face sect had been turned into ruins. Who is it? Lin Ling roared to the sky and spat out a mouthful of blood. Finally, in the Ancient Face sect, he saw a line of bloody words on a broken stone tablet. Destroy the kingdom, very impressive. Then I will destroy the world. Oh. Seeing that line of words, Lin Ling spat out another mouthful of blood. Could it be that they're here for revenge? Everyone had also arrived at the Guyen sect. Staring at the line of words, their fists were tightly clenched. Could they be the remnants of Tating Commandery and Weiwa Commandery? That shouldn't be the case. I don't see any hatred in these words. Instead, they seem to be filled with disdain. It seems to have been done on purpose. Or perhaps someone received a request and decided to destroy this realm in passing. Because if they were truly seeking revenge, the North Realm wouldn't have so many realms destroyed. Lord Eighth frowned and said, the other party was so ruthless. Although Lin Ling had destroyed a nation, he had gone to seek revenge. This was a very common thing in the martial god realm. However, the other party had even killed insignificant people and destroyed 100 realms. He was utterly devoid of conscience. However, it was undeniable that the other party knew about Lin Ling. Lin Ling stood there like a stone statue. In his mind, the people he knew, the people he didn't know, and the people he had met in his life were circulating. Those people were also looking at Lin Ling with a smile. It was as if they were looking at their loved ones, their legend. It was as if they were telling Lin Ling, my lord, this has nothing to do with you. This is the law of the universe. The Son of Heaven's will is circulating. Plop. Lin Ling knelt down. His head faced the sky and the earth and he kowtowed heavily. It's me. I've implicated you. The law of the universe, the rules of the gods. If there is any punishment from the heavens, it will be borne by me, Lin Ling. Why did I implicate them? I've let you down. Bang, bang, bang. Under Lin Ling's kowtow, the entire sacred rainforest swayed. The entire world was shaking. The falling flowers, flowing water sword, Tang Yue, and all of Lin Ling's friends in Qingzhou had tears in their eyes. Ever since they got to know Lin Ling, they knew that Lin Ling was a tough nut to crack. Even when facing the giants of Qingzhou, he had never bowed his head. However, they saw it now. This indomitable man who carried everything on his shoulders had knelt down. Bang, bang, bang. Following that deafening sound, everyone's hearts began to ache. When Lin Ling raised his head, they even saw a line of tears flowing down from Lin Ling's determined face. My lord. At this moment, everyone began to cry. This was the first time they had seen this arrogant man cry. Brother Ling. Looking at the grief-stricken Lin Ling, Yu and the others felt their hearts ache. This was because this was the first time they saw Lin Ling so sad. It was so sad that they felt as though the world had collapsed. It was extremely gloomy. Back in the sacred rainforest, when the Qing clan's patriarch and the second prince of the Heaven Mystics Kingdom died, Lin Ling was also very sad. However, he had never been as sad as he was today. Perhaps the number of his friends who had died was too many. Ling. Even Ancestor Tai Yen woke up. He looked at the guilt-ridden Lin Ling, and his heart felt as though it was being stabbed by a knife. However, no matter how they shouted, Lin Ling just kept kowtowing. It was as though he was apologizing to his dead friends. Even though the souls of his dead friends were here, they wouldn't blame Lin Ling. They could even be proud of knowing Lin Ling. However, Lin Ling still felt that he had let them down. Bang. He knelt like this and kowtowed countless times. It was as though he was kowtowing to every dead person. Finally, Lin Ling fainted. My lord. Seeing this, everyone felt even more heartache. Sigh. Lord Eighth, Qiyuhu and the others sighed softly. Everyone said that Lin Ling was heartless, cold, and domineering. But who was there that saw this scene? Who would feel so sad and guilty for those friends and passers-by? Therefore those who said that Lin Ling was heartless and cold, they didn't deserve it. Lin Ling, do you still remember me? It's enough to know you in this life. If I still remember you in the next life, I'll come and find you. In the chaos of the universe, when an emperor descends, countless lives will be buried with him. This is also one of the laws and also a rule set by the gods. Lord Lin Ling, you don't have to blame yourself too much. In the haze, Lin Ling seemed to hear many familiar voices. There were people from the Guyan sect, people from the Heaven Mystics Kingdom, and also people from the Rainforest Sacred Land and the three mysteries of the human realm. All the people that Lin Ling met when he was young, they all appeared in Lin Ling's dreams. Finally they waved goodbye. However, they left with smiles on their faces. However, just as Lin Ling wanted to ask them to stay, Lin Ling's eyes finally opened. He found himself lying on the bed. Beside him were his wives, Yu Xian Yuange, Qin Xiaolin, Princess Wuling and others. Chapter 28:48. The Awakened Lin Ling. At this moment, the door was pushed open and a seductive figure walked in. After seeing Lin Ling, the woman was overjoyed. However, she was afraid of disturbing Yu and the others, so she quickly whispered, "You slept like a log. During this period of time, you worried them to death. Let them have a good rest." This woman was Lu Susu. She pointed at Yu and the others and said, "How long have I been asleep?" 1 year. Yu and the others have been with you for a year, and they haven't rested for a year. These idiots and you probably haven't rested for a long time. Go and rest. Hearing Lu Susu's words, Lin Ling's heart ached. He carefully got up from the bed and pulled Lu Susu to rest regardless of how she waved her hand. "Lin Ling, are you feeling better?" Lu Susu seemed to be unable to let go of something. This was because a year ago Lin Ling had kowtowed for 3 days and 3 nights. In the end he fainted and then fell into a deep sleep for a year. She was worried to death. "It's all right. In the past year I have also thought it through. Although I must avenge my family, there are still people who want to use this as an excuse to disturb me. However, he has indeed succeeded. However, how can I, Lin Ling, be so weak? I will stand up where I fall," Lin Ling said lightly. Seeing that Lin Ling seemed to have recovered, Lu Susu couldn't help but smile. Really? She knew that Lin Ling valued friendship and righteousness, so she was afraid that Lin Ling was comforting her. "Really? You have to tell the truth." "It's true." "Then I'll believe you this once." After a few conversations, Lu Susu had quietly closed her eyes. It was obvious that she was also exhausted. Lin Ling's heart was filled with warmth. To have such close friends in this life, he was perfectly satisfied. Fortunately, this was Lin Yi's wedding. Because of the wedding rules, relatives must be present to welcome the bride, so Lin Ling brought them along. Otherwise, he would have regretted it for the rest of his life. Lin Ling opened the door and the scorching sun shrouded his body. Then he realized that he was still in the rainforest sacred land. However, there were no memories of the past, and this made Lin Ling's face couldn't help but become gloomy. Previously he said that he didn't care, but with his character of friendship and righteousness, how could he not care? He looked at the green mountains in the distance and the colorful flowers. He then looked at the grass and dead trees nearby. Finally, his gaze landed on the dead tree. The dead tree was already dead, but there was a bud growing out of it. The old thing is gone, new life. Lin Ling came before the withered tree and stroked the tender shoots with a smile on his face. At this moment he seemed to understand something. His soul, it was in the range of 6,000 steps. He stepped out, and when he appeared again he was already in a great hall. In the great hall, everyone was present. Old Ancestor Extreme Flame, Lin Yi, and the others. In a year Lin Yi had completely matured, as if he was the master of a world. In the year that Lin Ling had been asleep, Lin Yi had shouldered the Lin family and the remaining people of the rainforest sacred land on his shoulders. This was because his father had been fighting for so many years and was tired, so he wanted his father to have a good rest. "Are you sure that those people's eyes are blood red?" Lin Yi's voice suddenly sounded. Among the crowd, a middle-aged man stood quietly. His right arm was broken and his face was extremely cold. He indifferently said, "I don't want to repeat my words a second time." "Who the hell are you?" The people in the great hall were suspicious of the middle-aged man. This was because everyone in the rainforest sacred land had died, and this man was the only one alive. Moreover, this person had the strength of a world king. It had to be known that in the rainforest sacred land, the strength of a world king was very rare. Even if there was, it was impossible for them not to know. I said, the rainforest sacred land is my hometown. The middle-aged man looked up and said, where is Lin Ling? I want to see him. Who knows what intentions you have? You better tell the truth. Seeing this, Lin Yi angrily shouted. His father was still in a deep sleep and he didn't know what was going on. How could he let a stranger see his father? If this person was sent by other powerhouses, the rainforest sacred land would definitely not be able to stop him. That's enough. I've already explained many times. You don't plan to believe me. The middle-aged man erupted with a powerful strength. However, there were several people in the Great Hall who were stronger than him. This was because Lord Eighth and the others were worried about Lin Ling, so they had been staying in the rainforest sacred land. Just as they were about to attack, a figure suddenly appeared in front of the middle-aged man. He's one of us. After seeing that person, everyone was overjoyed. Because it was Lin Ling. You've finally woken up. For the past year we've been worried to death. Moreover, if your enemies know that you've fallen, I'm afraid they won't miss this opportunity. It's good that you've woken up. Lord Eighth and Red Jade Tiger laughed excitedly. Ling, father. Ancestor Tai Yen and the others also had tears in their eyes. Lin Ling smiled and greeted everyone. However, his gaze quickly turned to the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man looked at Lin Ling excitedly and then knelt down on one knee. Death Arrow Martial God, I didn't expect you to still be alive. Lin Ling quickly helped him up. This person was Li Xiaoyao's old enemy from the Great Saint Domain, Death Arrow Martial God. This powerhouse had been crippled by Lin Ling in the past. Later, he bitterly cultivated and recovered some of his strength. When Lin Ling returned last time, the first person he met was Death Arrow Martial God. Therefore he gave him some pointers. He didn't expect this person's talent to be so great that he could actually comprehend a realm origin seed. Lin Ling, I've finally seen you. You have to avenge us. Death Arrow Martial God said excitedly. Tears flowed from his eyes. His wife and son were both dead. If it weren't for the fact that this person didn't know he was a world king, he wouldn't have been able to escape this calamity. Who is it? Lin Ling was even more excited than Death Arrow Martial God. I don't know who they are. However, their eyes were blood red. Moreover, they were under orders because on that day, everyone in the Rainforest Holy Land heard a mysterious voice. That voice wanted to destroy the realm origin seed. Death Arrow Martial God said. Blood red eyes. Lin Ling frowned. Such people were too hard to find. That's right, they also had a moon mark on their foreheads. Death Arrow Martial God suddenly recalled. According to what you said, there is a clan in the north that has this characteristic. It is the Dragon Slayer clan. They are in the Flash world. Moreover, what is surprising is that the realms near their world have been destroyed but their world is still safe and sound. Red Jade Tiger suddenly said. The Rainforest Holy Land had been destroyed by a mysterious person. The 6 armies of the Great Azure Divine Dynasty had gone to investigate, thus they knew of this news. Flash World. Lin Ling muttered, his voice turning icy cold. Chapter 2849. Go to the Flash World. Give me the direction, I'll go find it myself. Yes. Lin Ling looked at Red Jade Tiger and said. You have to be careful. The 10,000 worlds around the Qing province are in chaos. In this year there have been worlds being massacred. I don't know what the murderer wants to do. Red Jade Tiger said. The rainforest sacred land isn't safe either. Everyone follow me to another place. Yes. Lin Ling pondered for a moment and planned to let the remaining people go to the Flame World fragment. He also sensed that after the Son of Heaven's mandate appeared, the 10,000 worlds were in chaos. Then he didn't hide anything from Lord Eighth and the others and activated the Spacetime Divine Steel. Isn't this the Spacetime Divine Steel that the Sovereign Marquis has been looking for? Seeing this, Red Jade Tiger and the others were shocked. They didn't expect the Spacetime Divine Steel to be with Lin Ling. This guy hid it well. The Spacetime Divine Steel belongs to me, Lin Ling. Does the Sovereign Marquis think he can find it just because he wants to? Lin Ling replied with a smile. The Spacetime Divine Steel was one of his trump cards and he usually didn't use it easily. However, in order to protect Ancestor Tai Yen and the others, Lord Eighth and the others had waited here for a year. This made Lin Ling very grateful, so he didn't hide this trump card. TSK, this mysterious thing gives people a lot of pressure. I'm afraid even a second-level martial immortal can't block this thing. Lord Eighth said with a serious expression. In the Five-Ring City, Lin Ling had defeated a first-level martial immortal expert. However, he felt that if Lin Ling used the Spacetime Divine Steel, his strength could still increase. Therefore, when he thought that Lin Ling was only a true god, Lord Eighth immediately felt that Lin Ling was simply a monster. Lin Ling already knew about this. As his strength increased, the space-time divine steel became stronger and stronger. After that, Lin Ling allowed everyone from the Rainforest Holy Land to enter the ancient monument. The Death Arrow Martial God also followed. To Lin Ling, the Death Arrow Martial God was the last person from the Rainforest Holy Land. Yu and the rest woke up and happily looked at Lin Ling. However, after knowing that Lin Ling had important matters to attend to, they obediently entered the ancient monument even though they were reluctant. Lin Ling took them through the time and space divine steel and arrived at the flame world fragment. TSK, what a dense fire-type spiritual energy. Could this be the ancient flame world? Lord Eighth and the others also followed Lin Ling, and at this moment their horizons were broadened. Following that, when the people from Evil Flame School walked out, they found out that Lin Ling had secretly hidden a huge force. Greetings, sect leader. Evil Flame School was the biggest sect in the Flame World fragment. At this moment, everyone bowed respectfully to Lin Ling. Among them were Yan Shan King, Vice Sect Leader Yan Yeu, Lin Ling's old friends, Elder Chen and Yang Xiaotian. At this moment they were all looking at Lin Ling with joy. Moreover, after Lin Ling had imparted the demonic flame change to them, their strength had greatly increased. These are my family. They are my wives. This is my grandfather. In the following days they will be staying here. Because of the changes in my hometown, it is very dangerous, so I will have to trouble you to take care of them. Lin Ling looked at Yan Shan King and the others and explained. We will listen to sect leaders' orders. Yan Shan King quickly bowed and said. In the past, their evil flame school was almost completely wiped out. It was Lin Ling who saved them. Hence, Lin Ling's words were no different from fate to the flame world fragment. Thank you. Lin Ling also bowed to Yan Shan King and the others, making them feel flattered. Ancestor Tai Yen and the others were shocked. They never thought that Lin Ling would become the sect leader. If I remember correctly, this is Brother Ling's first sect in his life. Yu and Shen Yuangura were also shocked. Then they looked at everyone. Although the people in the Rainforest Holy Land had all passed away, at least their families were still there. The only one who was not there was An Yuer. This was a pity. Lin Ling made a long story short. After giving his instructions, he left with Lord Eighth and Lord Ninth. Through the time steel they appeared in the Rainforest Holy Land. Qiuhu and the others were shocked by the power of the time steel. Because if not for the time steel, they would not have been able to find the fragment. It was probably hidden in some corner of the 10,000 worlds. And Lin Ling brought his family and friends there, it was undoubtedly very safe. Lin Ling, this time the 10,000 worlds around Qing State were destroyed. Previously we thought that some crazy demon was born. But in this year, we analyzed that the culprit is very likely from Qing State. The three of them stood on the highest peak of Guyen sect. Qiuhu looked into the distance. The great Qing divine dynasty used the Qing Emperor Universe Mirror to deal with this massacre. They wanted to see the culprit, but the Qing Emperor Universe Mirror that can see through everything was deceived. No one could see the culprit. Qiuhu said. Qing Emperor Universe Mirror? Hearing this, Lin Ling's eyes flashed. Generally speaking, as long as it is in the Qing state, nothing can be hidden from the Qing Emperor Universe Mirror. There are only two reasons for the mirror to be deceived. First, the culprit is not from Qing state. Second, someone did something to the mirror. If the second guess is correct, it means that the culprit is very powerful. There are less than 10 people in Qing state who have such power. Lord Eight said. It seems that it is related to the Son of Heaven's mandate. But no matter who it is, I will find him. Lin Ling also knew that the culprit was scarier than he imagined. There is nothing in the 6 camps that can help you on your trip to the Flash Boundary. I will give you a fire-stepping Qilin. This divine beast has the 5 realms speed. Can save you a lot of energy. Qiuhu looked at Lin Ling and roared at the sky. Then a flame light shot over. Next, a majestic Qilin appeared in the sky. Its whole body was covered with green scales. Flames came out of its nostrils. Its thick limbs stepped on the sky. Flames appeared under its 4 hooves. It was as if it was stepping on fire. Thank you, my lord. Lin Ling bowed to Qiuhu and Lord Eight and jumped up. The fire-stepping Qilin also knew Lin Ling's identity. It obediently waited for Lin Ling to arrive. After Lin Ling sat down, the fire-stepping Qilin roared like a lion. It was majestic. What a handsome kid. Looking at Lin Ling riding the Qilin, Lord Eight and the others praised him. Farewell, my lord. Lin Ling waved his hand at the ground. The fire-stepping Qilin roared and rushed into the sky. It was heading towards the chaos of the universe. Rumble. It was like a shooting star galloping through the starry sky. It was extremely dazzling. In this year I heard about Lin Ling's story. I didn't expect him to be so loyal. Yes, old Qi the martial god camp didn't find the wrong person this time. Looking at the figure that disappeared in the sky, Qi Yuhu and Lord 8 also left. There was no one left in the rainforest sacred land. It was even more peaceful. A strong wind blew, blowing Lin Ling's long hair. His face was extremely cold. He wanted to know who the culprit was. Chapter 2850. Coming to exterminate the world. Ahead was like a starry sky with flickering lights, but Lin Ling seemed to see familiar faces. Taoist came, the 7 emperors, the Jade Lake Heavenly Mother, the generals of the Heaven Mystics Kingdom. There were too many. Lin Ling already carried their vengeance on his shoulders. Swish. Stepping on the fire Qilin, the speed of the 5 realms was extremely fast. It traversed through 10,000 realms as though time was flowing. Lin Ling looked at the boundless 10,000 realms and looked at the various realms. Every realm had its own legends and history that could be traced back to the ancient era. Martial arts were like seeds that were scattered in the 10,000 realms. Flash Realm. A jade slip appeared in Lin Ling's hand, which recorded the location of this realm. The Flash Realm was a tiny realm in the north. Its area was even smaller than the rainforest sacred ground, but in the nearby area, this realm was extremely famous. Because this realm was very chaotic, it was a lawless area where good people mixed with bad people and gathered many villains in the north. Noisy noises came out from the interface and there were also faint cries of pain. Some women with disheveled clothes were being ravaged. However, the people behind them couldn't care less. They were laughing wantonly and in the end they tortured those women to death. Haha. So satisfying. Silly women who can't see past it. Maniacal laughter continued to ring out. A 3-meter-tall man with a bare upper body roared at the sky, as if to prove his strength. Big brother, you're still the best. Now that many realms in the north have been destroyed, our Flash Realm can also dominate. That's right, not long ago in the Mortal Spirit Realm, Big Brother used the Yixia Divine Explosion to defeat that trash, Reverend Qinling. At that time, the entire Mortal Spirit Realm was in awe. Impressive. I think Big Brother has few opponents in the True God Realm. If Big Brother steps into the martial immortal realm in the future, TSK, even the Qing province can't stop Big Brother's footsteps. The flattery was like a wave which made the man laugh even louder. However, he said modestly, there is always someone better. The experts in the Qing province aren't people that I can resist, but in the north, there are indeed not many people who can stop me. At this moment, the roar of a divine beast came from the sky. Then an awe-inspiring Qilin came running over. Wow, what a handsome divine beast. This divine beast is a perfect match for Big Brother. The martial artists of the flickering world were stunned for a moment, then they all began to laugh excitedly. It seemed that the fire-stepping Qilin already belonged to them. Big Brother, the fire-stepping Qilin heard of your great name, so it came here because of you. It's not that I, Iron Destroyer, am arrogant, but in the North Territory when I say one, no one dares to say two. If I want to fight someone they don't even dare to look at me. That's why this god beast came here. Now watch me capture that god beast. Following the man's voice, the cheers grew even louder. However, before that man could make a move, a dazzling sword light suddenly slashed towards him. Fast, incomparably fast. Whoosh. A muffled sound rang out at the same time. The man had just walked out when his right arm was chopped off. His entire body froze on the spot, seemingly unable to react. Everyone's faces were also frozen in place. They had just finished flattering the man, but in the next moment, their strongest boss had his right arm chopped off. The shock this scene gave them was too intense. Who are you? The man rubbed his broken arm and stared at the sky because he realized that there was someone on the fire-stepping Qilin. However, the answer he got was a sword. A huge sword light chopped off his head, causing the flickering world to fall silent. Everyone was panicking. Who are you? Not long after, 5 old men walked out of the flickering world. Some of them were fat, some were thin, and some were even skeletons. However, they all had the same characteristics. That was, their eyes were as red as blood, and there was a moon mark on their forehead. In fact, all the martial artists in the world were like this. Only by having this mark could one be considered a dragon slayer. This was a method of changing one's bloodline through blood changing and bone washing. In the sky, the fire-stepping Qilin stopped and looked at the ground with cold eyes. On the Qilin, a man with a huge sword on his back walked down step by step. The 5 old men also looked at the sky. One of them even grabbed a woman and licked and touched her body. The evil aura was extremely dense. However, after the 5 of them moved out, the flickering world also quietened down. Everyone's shock seemed to have been appeased because they knew that the 5 old ancestors were magnates at the 7th level of True God realm. How could ordinary people dare to provoke them? Did you guys destroy my rainforest's sacred ground? In the sky, the man did not talk nonsense and asked directly. At this moment, the 5 old men knew why the other party had come. During this period of time, they had destroyed many realms. Sir, do you know what you're saying? However, they would definitely not admit to this matter. One of the skinny old men said coldly. Rumble. However, as soon as he finished speaking, a gigantic sword smashed down from the sky like a giant tablet. Under countless gazes, Mo, who was one of the ancestors who had led them to conquer the North Territory, was smashed into meat paste. Old heavenly poison ghost. Seeing this, the other 4 old men's faces changed drastically. The 5 of them were fugitives. 1,000 years ago, they arrived at the flickering world and slaughtered everyone in this world. After that, they occupied this world. In the following years, they had helped each other and saved each other's lives. That kind of friendship was formed through life and death. But now, one of the 5 of them was dead. Moreover, the other party attacked without saying anything. It was faster to kill them. You're courting death. Kill him, I want to use his head as a urinal. The 4 old men roared ferociously and each of them displayed their martial arts and rushed to the sky. The enormous martial arts they used immediately caused the flickering world to sway. The old men are angry. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. They had followed the old men for so many years, but this was the first time they had seen them so angry. That mysterious young man was dead for sure. However, in their eyes, the young man stood in the sky like a javelin. Moreover, his right hand was stretched out very straight as if he was holding something. However, in reality there was nothing in his right hand. This strange figure immediately caused some people to be stunned. What kind of martial arts was this strange martial arts posture? However, the 4 old men did not care so much. Each of their moves was fatal and ruthless. They wanted to tear the young man apart and destroy him alive. Sword come. Finally the young man spoke. Rumble. The huge sword that had smashed the old man to pieces was now shot into the sky and then grasped in the young man's hand. It turned out that he had straightened his right hand because he was preparing to catch the sword. Chapter 28:51. Slaughter. However, what shocked them even more was yet to come. The young man took a step forward, and without using any martial arts, the giant sword swept out. Crackling sounds were immediately heard, and the martial arts of the 4 ancestors were all broken. Then the sound of bones breaking and flesh being cut could be heard clearly. The 4 patriarchs either had their arms or legs chopped off. One of them was even chopped in half. At this moment he was looking at his lower body in disbelief. Run. This terrifying scene caused the hearts of this group of vicious people to tremble fiercely. However, when they wanted to escape, there were billowing flames rising in the distance, firmly surrounding them in a circular position. Moreover, some of the martial artists who tried to rush out of the encirclement of the flames were directly burned to ashes after approaching the flames. There was no escape. Destroy my homeland? In the sky, the young man held the giant sword and walked down step by step like a killing god. It was as if he was slaughtering a flock of sheep trapped in a cage. Spare us, heroes, spare us. Even though this group of people had killed countless people, they still felt uneasy at this moment. This was because they were looking at a god of death. Without asking for a reason, the moment he appeared, he would kill all of them. Who asked you to attack? With a swing of the young man's sword, hundreds of warriors were cut into nothingness. Senior, you've got the wrong person. Out of the 4 old men, 2 of them had already died. The remaining 2 said nervously. I've got your whole family wrong. Boom. What answered them was a giant sword, a cold and merciless sword. One of the old men was hit in the head by the giant sword, and then his head bloomed like a flower. Blood and flesh splattered everywhere, and even an eyeball fell into the arms of a warrior. He was so frightened that he quickly threw the eyeball away, and his whole body trembled as if he was drenched in rain. Who destroyed my rainforest sacred land? Senior, what is the rainforest sacred land? I'm innocent. The remaining ancestor felt as if his heart was struck by thunder. During this period of time they had destroyed many realms, but they really couldn't remember where the rainforest sacred land was. Innocent? Lin Ling's gaze was as cold as ice. When he looked at the old ancestor's body began to tremble. What a cold gaze. It was a tyrannical, crazy, and even hysterical gaze. This caused the old man to laugh bitterly in his heart. He didn't understand how he had offended this malefic star. Whoosh. Lin Ling sheathed his sword, took a step forward, and appeared in front of the old man. His big hand grabbed out and actually pulled out the old man's arm. Crash. Fresh blood suddenly gushed out like a fountain, sprinkling onto Lin Ling's body, making him look even more like a blood-soaked god of slaughter. Give me back Mistress Water Mist. Whoosh. He exerted more force with both hands and the old man's left arm was pulled out. The bones were clearly visible and the old man's face was as pale as paper. He was in so much pain that he couldn't even scream. How terrifying. Everyone knelt down in fright. Some of the more cowardly ones even kowtowed. They didn't know how they had provoked this demon. It was too terrifying. Senior, you have misunderstood. The old man's arms were pulled out, and he was in so much pain that he wished he was dead. However, he didn't even dare to scream. He just wanted this indifferent youth to spare his life. He also saw that the youth seemed to be venting his anger on him. It was obvious that such a person wouldn't rest until he was dead. If this misunderstanding wasn't resolved, it didn't matter what kind of experts came today. The other party was going to kill him. Misunderstanding? Give me back Spiritual Master came. Give me back the Heaven Mystic's kingdom. Lin Ling seemed to have gone crazy. His long hair was dyed with fresh blood as he pulled out the old man's flesh piece by piece. Every piece of flesh was like a blood debt. Furthermore, Lin Ling had also struck out with his realm essence. He didn't want the old man to die, but he wanted him to have a taste of the most painful purgatory in the world. He also saw that so many people had died in the rainforest sacred land, but this group of people was still drinking and chatting merrily. Hence, Lin Ling had also lost his rationality. He wanted this group of ruffians to return his family and friends. Kill me. I beg you. Kill me. The old man was tortured until he didn't look like a human or a ghost. He couldn't wait to die like this. He had done many bad things in his life and knew that there would be retribution sooner or later. However, he didn't expect that the retribution would be so terrifying. At home, there are friends that I will never forget. They just wanted to live a peaceful life. Why did you kill them? Lin Ling extended his right hand and suddenly grabbed the old man's head. His enormous spiritual strength was like lightning as it wreaked havoc on the old man, causing him to spit out white foam from his mouth. Right now, he only had the desire to die. It was a person called Lord Xianxia. He was the one who ordered us to destroy the North region. He wanted to refine the soul bone altar. Hence, he wanted to take away everyone's souls, bones, and flesh. He is now going to the Red Region's Diansang Mountain. Senior, I beg you. Kill me. Give me a quick death. Finally, the old man cried out in pain. He couldn't take it anymore. It was because both his body and soul had suffered inhumane torture. Bang. Hearing this, Lin Ling's eyes turned red. He clenched his right hand and the old man's head exploded. Then, as if he couldn't vent his anger, he pulled with both hands and tore the old man's hands apart. Plop. Everyone on the ground was pale with fright. Even if they were numb to killing, they were still scared to death by Lin Ling's madness. This young man was a berserk lord. Xianxia. Lin Ling roared at the sky. He still couldn't vent his anger. Because when he knew that the other party wanted to refine the soul bone altar, he felt like his heart was being cut by a knife. In the past, every time he returned to the rainforest sacred land, the friends who greeted him with a smile would end up like this. He was angry. He couldn't accept it. He hated himself for being too weak. Bang. Lin Ling stepped into the sky. The entire sky exploded. Spatial fragments fell to the ground like glass. He shot into the universe. That terrifying lord is finally gone. We must have killed his people by mistake. Otherwise he wouldn't be so crazy. Let's hurry and leave. I'm scared just thinking about the previous scene. Luckily he seems to have gone mad with anger and forgot about us. I hope that guy rushes to the territory of the strong and is killed by the strong. The martial practitioners of the flickering light world wanted to escape. However, before they could move, a burning cloud appeared in the sky. An oppressive aura rolled over. A huge coffin floated in the sky. The coffin was covered in flames and jumped like a heart. It was getting closer and closer to them. No. Those who thought they had escaped disaster all shouted. Only now did they know that the cold youth didn't plan on letting them go. However, what was the use of begging? In their eyes, the flaming coffin was getting closer and closer. Are we going to die? We've destroyed more than 50 worlds. Is there finally retribution? At this moment, everyone's hearts were dead. They had completely given up on running. Only bitterness and regret were on their faces. Chapter 2852. 100 Sect Conference at Grey Dianshan Mountain. Rumble. When the flaming coffin descended, the flickering world froze. Looking from the universal void, a dazzling flaming light appeared, as though a sword had slashed the flickering world. Following that, countless flaming waves rushed out of the light and destroyed the flickering world. This world had been destroyed and it had been completely wiped out. In the distant universal void, Lin Ling had his hands behind his back as he looked ahead indifferently. With his righteous personality, he would not be able to sleep until he found the culprit. If he were to die one day, he would not be able to rest in peace. To the Crimson State. Go. After watching silently for a moment, Lin Ling leaped onto the fire Qilin and transformed into a ray of light that headed towards the distant Crimson State. His mind had also regained its calm. He had no impression of Lord Realgar. He did not understand why the other party had attacked. Of course, he was certain that the other party definitely knew him, because that line of words had already explained everything. If I want to understand everything, I have to find Realgar. Lin Ling knew very well that it would take a long time to reach the Crimson State from the Green State. However, if he were to travel from the North Territory and take some shortcuts, he could reach the border of the Crimson State in 10 days. As for the Grey Dianshan Mountain, perhaps he would only know its location when he neared the Crimson State. The universal void was vast and boundless. Take the North Territory for example, it was actually as vast as the ocean. The North Territory that the Green State warriors spoke of was actually the North Territory near the Green State. It did not include the entire North Territory. This was because to many people, they would never be able to leave the Green State in their entire lives. Of course, this problem did not include Lin Ling. At that moment, in a very deep place in the North Territory, a large number of figures were walking in the void. Grey Dianshan Mountain 100 Sect Conference. Interesting. These people were wearing the sect's robes and were led by a few elders. They were all heading in a certain direction. The annual 100 Sect Conference has begun. 9 Firmament Cloud Sect, meet Jin Xiao at the conference. In the distance, a large white shark was swimming in the void. A large number of people stood on top of it. An old man who looked like a sect master smiled faintly. I'll wait for you. On the other side, the middle-aged sect master replied with a sneer. Whoosh. At the same time, a multicolored sun chaser wind rain eagle the size of a town flew over. This divine beast had the 6 realms speed and was an extremely rare mount. At this moment, a large number of people were standing on top of the divine beast. Even though the sun chaser wind rain eagle was very fast, these people were still standing like pine trees. This showed how strong they were. Surpassed the Red Cloud sect? The eyes of the nearby cultivators lit up when they saw this. Because this was a huge sect and there were countless geniuses in this sect. He didn't expect that this kind of sect would also participate in the 100 Sect Conference. If he didn't remember wrongly, this sect was a 6th grade sect. Looks like this year's 100 Sect Conference will be the grandest. All disciples listen up. In this 100 Sect Conference you are only allowed to win, you are not allowed to lose. Voices rang out in the various sects as everyone headed towards Zhongdian Mountain one after another. After the crowd disappeared, there were still sects moving forward in the void. However, compared to the previous large sects, these sects were much smaller. TSK, that was the 5 Kings sect of Mount Tai previously. The entire sect had 100,000 disciples and countless geniuses. Look at our sect, we only have 800 people. If it wasn't for the long history of our sect that caused everyone to know about it, I wouldn't even want to participate in this 100 Sect Conference. Those small sects said helplessly. That sect is even more powerful. There's only one person. Suddenly someone pointed to the front and said. This was because there was a Qilin standing quietly in the void. On top of the Qilin, a blue-robed young man was looking at them coldly. It was the 100 Sect Conference now. Therefore, that person should be here to participate in the 100 Sect Conference. However, there was only one person. This was somewhat ironic. Of course, the young man didn't seem to hear the strange gazes of the people. He continued to sit on the Qilin quietly like a statue. If it wasn't for the fact that he was too cold, some people would have gone over to ask him. Until the nearby sects changed a few more times, the blue-robed young man finally moved. In a corner of the void, a small sect with only 500 people was rushing to the 100 Sect Conference. However, as they were moving forward, a young man riding a Qilin appeared. What sect are you from? I want to join your sect. The young man smiled and said to an old man in the sect. This time, everyone in the sect was startled. Was this guy crazy? Sir, are you drunk? The sect leader frowned. Wasn't it a joke to suddenly meet someone blocking their path and ask to join their sect? This was because how could one join a sect just because they wanted to? Bang. The young man was still smiling but his figure disappeared. When he reappeared he was already in front of the sect leader. Moreover, His hand was like a claw that grabbed the sect leader's neck. I also want to get drunk. Unfortunately, I finished all my wine during this period of rushing. When the sect leader reacted, he instantly heard the young man's somewhat innocent voice. However, his heart was trembling. What a fast speed. He probably possessed the speed of 7 realms. As for the disciples of this sect, each and every one of them were like cicadas in winter. This was because they had never expected that their sect leader, whom they admired in the past, would be subdued in one move. Sir, we're just a small sect. The sect leader smiled bitterly. He was an expert at the 9th level of the true god realm, but he was subdued in one move. This made him realize that he was definitely not the other party's match. However, such a person actually didn't belong to any sect? If the various large sects knew about this, they would probably beg the young man to join their sect. I know. However, I do need the identity of a sect now, so I'll have to trouble you. The young man smiled and gave off an amiable feeling. You can join us. The sect leader shook his head helplessly. He didn't believe that amiable smile because if he rejected it, he would definitely end up in a miserable state. Thank you. The young man shrugged his shoulders and let go of the sect leader. Subsequently, he walked into the crowd of disciples. The sect leader glanced at him and waved his hand helplessly. Let's go. He could guess that the other party seemed to want to participate in the 100 sect conference, but he didn't have a sect behind him, so he joined their sect. Regarding this, as long as the young man didn't do anything that would harm the sect, he couldn't be bothered. Of course, he couldn't be bothered with most of them. As they followed the sect forward, the surrounding young men's gazes were filled with reverence and they didn't dare to say a word. However, Lin Ling ignored them and looked ahead instead. Great Yinshan Mountain 100 Sect Conference. He had a feeling that Lord Realmfire should be there. As they moved forward, more and more sects appeared and there were many people. Finally, everyone landed on a huge realm. Chapter 2853. He finally saw Realgar. Lin Ling's soul power quietly spread out and he shockingly discovered that there were many experts there. There were quite a few martial immortal experts, which meant that the Scarlet Province was even more powerful than the Azure Province. One had to know that this was only the border region of the Scarlet Province. If there were so many martial immortals at the border region, what about the core region? Take the Azure Province as an example. At the border region, true gods could create a sect or even a big sect. Martial immortals could only appear in the Great Azure Divine Dynasty. The 100 Sect Gathering is a feast that has been passed down for tens of millions of years. Today we are indebted to everyone for giving us face and participating. Your presence brings light to my humble gray mountain. A polite voice rang out, causing Lin Ling to shake his head. He was truly not interested in such polite words. His gaze kept on searching within the crowd, but he did not find Lord Realgar. Instead, he saw the strength of the disciples from the big sections. Generally speaking, those genius disciples were a bit more powerful than those from the Azure Province. It was because those geniuses all had the strength of the Azure Province's first generation. Moreover, there were quite a few people who were even more powerful. They were likely not weaker than the Azure Province's 9 heavens. As he searched, Lin Ling also noticed a young man on top of a mountain peak. That person's clothing and way of doing things were clearly different from the people around him. It was a bit similar to the people from the Azure Province. Moreover, Lin Ling saw that the people around him had completely different attitudes towards that young man. Realgar, genius of the Great Azure Divine Dynasty. It is our honor for you to represent the Great Azure Divine Dynasty to participate in the 100 Sect Gathering. Not at all, not at all. I've only come on the orders of Milord. Milord admires the 100 sects in this region a lot and specially told me to come and pay a visit. Really? I've heard that Brother Realgar is a favorite of Milord. At such a young age, you're already one of the 20 most outstanding geniuses of the Great Azure Divine Dynasty. It is our fortune to be able to know Brother Realgar. On the mountain peak, the geniuses all around were flattering. Although they were elites of their sects, they knew even more how terrifying Realgar's background was. He was someone that the Great Azure Divine Dynasty's God Empress valued. Although the Azure Province was inferior to the Scarlet Province, the God Empress was more powerful than anyone present. So, if they could curry favor with the Great Azure Divine Dynasty's Empress Dowager, there were only benefits and no harm. Therefore, not only them, but even the leaders of the various sects were also very respectful towards Realgar. I heard that the divine bell of Qing Province has rung and the Son of Heaven's fate has opened. I think Brother Xiong Huang must have a Son of Heaven's fate. He must be the most dazzling genius of Qing Province and will soon surpass the 9 heavens. Someone laughed. It's nothing. The young man called Realgar was very young and looked very ordinary. At this moment, he modestly waved his hand. I've heard that the most dazzling genius in Qing province is someone called Lin something. This person is the most monstrous genius in the history of Qing province. He's almost catching up to the 9 heavens of Qing province. Another person said. It was obvious that this person often wandered around Qing province and was somewhat familiar with Qing province. His name is Lin Ling. He is indeed a bit amazing, but that's all. Because he obtained the Azure Emperor's Jade Seal, he attracted a lot of attention. Hearing this, Realgar immediately replied with a smile. Brother Realgar is right. A mere Lin Ling something. Oh, he's called Lin Ling. When he meets Brother Realgar, he can only kneel down and kowtow. Someone at the side immediately flattered. It's not as exaggerated as you say. Lin Ling does have some ability, but he's too ignorant. He doesn't understand the ways of the world and thinks that just because he has some ability, he won't give face to the big shots. This kind of person won't go far. Of course, young people are all like this. If I have the chance to meet him, I'll still give him some pointers and let him know that there is always someone better than him. Realgar said modestly. What a dog's mouth. However, just as he finished speaking, a cold voice sounded at the same time. At this moment, Songdian Mountain fell silent. Everyone frowned, wondering who was so bold. Which expert is sneaking around? What kind of hero are you? A handsome young man reprimanded. Sneaking around? Do you have a pair of dog eyes? I'm right here. Don't tell me your dog eyes can't see me. What surprised everyone was that the person who came was fearless and actually walked out. This was a young man, but his spirit was trembling. His cultivation was at the 8th true god realm. This kind of cultivation could only be considered average in the 100 sects. Are you the one who spoke? Everyone stared at the young man. They didn't understand why this young man was so arrogant when his cultivation was so low. Sir, you seem to be scolding me before. Could it be that there's some misunderstanding between us? Realgar frowned slightly and said indifferently. Lin Ling looked at him and his eyes turned red. This was the person who killed the people of the Rainforest Holy Land? You know me? Realgar frowned even more when he sensed Lin Ling's murderous gaze. How can I not know you? I can't wait to kill you. I'm the Lin Ling you're talking about. Lin Ling said coldly. Realgar's expression changed slightly. Of course he knew Lin Ling. He was a popular person in the Qing province. Not long ago he was ordered by the Lord to destroy the world, so he also went to destroy the Rainforest Holy Land. Because someone asked him to destroy the Rainforest Holy Land, and he knew that Lin Ling was going to destroy the country. Therefore, he wanted to use the destruction of the world to tell Lin Ling that the act of destroying a country was too inexperienced. So it's you. I didn't expect you to come here too. Realgar sneered. He didn't put the legendary Lin Ling in his eyes. Even a dog like you can come, why can't I? Lin Ling retorted. What an arrogant kid. Brother Realgar, who is this person? He's Lin Ling from the Qing province. He's the person you were discussing just now. So weak? It's better to meet him in person than to hear about him. After a round of discussion, the various sects came to a sudden realization. However, they looked at Lin Ling with disdain. The Qing province was ultimately weaker than the Crimson province, and the current situation had proven this fact. He was only at the 8th level of True God realm, yet he was called the most monstrous genius in the Qing province. It was simply an undeserved reputation. He actually came to the Crimson province from the Qing province to participate in our 100-sect conference. This kid is really persistent. Senior Brother Realgar, just say the word. I want him to kneel in front of you. Kid, do you know where this is? Slap yourself 3 times. Many elites from various sects who wanted to curry favor with Realgar started to flaunt their prowess in front of Lin Ling. However, Lin Ling ignored them. He didn't forget the purpose of his trip. Realgar, I want to ask you. Who sent you to my hometown? I was wondering why you came here. It turns out that the world was destroyed, so you flew into a rage out of humiliation. Chapter 2854. 18 Ravines of the 9 Dragons. I'm going to kill you. Lin Ling's face turned even colder when he saw Xiong Huang's smug look. Do you want to know who destroyed your hometown? Sure, join the 100-sect conference. Find me and I'll tell you the answer. Xiong Huang suddenly said through gritted teeth after laughing loudly. If Lin Ling died in his hands, it would be a great achievement when he returned. Moreover, Lin Ling had come alone. He could not help but admire Lin Ling's courage. However, since he had come, he could not leave. Interesting, really interesting. Let him join the 100-sect conference. If he meets me, I'll show him what a genius is. The other elites from the other sects also rubbed their hands together, their interest piqued. Looking at the gloating looks on everyone's faces, Lin Ling smiled, turned around and left to make preparations. You don't dare to play anymore? You want to run away? Xiong Huang thought that Lin Ling was scared. After all, Lin Ling was alone and this was not Qingzhou. How could Lin Ling cause any trouble? However, Lin Ling still walked forward and extended his right hand. His palm was facing the sky and he suddenly clenched his fist. I'll kill you at the 100 Sect Conference. Then a cold voice quietly entered everyone's ears like the wind. Everyone was stunned for a moment, stunned by Lin Ling's resolute look. However, they soon burst into laughter. Lin Ling did not seem to understand that this was Crimson Province and not Qingzhou. Brother Xiong Huang, if we enter the 18 ravines of the 9 dragons, I'll take care of him for you. You guys have to protect him well. If anything goes wrong, I'll hold all of you responsible. Sect leader, don't worry. It's just Lin Ling. He can't cause any trouble. Around Xiong Huang, the elites of the various sects all laughed. Even the sect masters of the various sects attached great importance to Xiong Huang. This was because Xiong Huang was one of the people of the Great Azure Divine Dynasty's Empress Dowager. She represented the Empress Dowager and came here to form a friendship. Therefore, if she died here, it would be difficult for them to explain their mission. The 100 Sect Conference was obviously a grand banquet in the Crimson Province. It was extremely grand and was even held in other places in the Crimson Province. The main purpose of the assembly was to gather profound light grass. This was an extremely rare treasure that only appeared in the Crimson Province. However, in the past, there had been many wars in the Crimson Province for these spiritual herbs. Therefore, there was now a rule that these spiritual herbs could only be collected once a year, and the sect that won would also receive a generous reward. The only rule of the 100 Sect gathering is that if we encounter spirit beasts of the 9 dragons and 18 ravines, everyone must work together to eradicate them. At this time, no sect is allowed to attack each other. At other times you can do whatever you want. A voice rang out in the sky. It was the rules of the 100 Sect Conference, causing everyone to smile. This rule had been passed down for millions of years, so even without the reminder they were well aware of it. 9 dragons and 18 grooves open. Rumble. The interface shook and then a huge crack appeared. The crack was pitch black and filled with dense spiritual energy. The spiritual energy was like a hot wind, giving people an extremely comfortable feeling. 9 dragons and 18 grooves. Legend has it that it was the place where 18 ancestral dragons fought in the ancient era. Diske, the other name of the 9 dragons and 18 grooves is the spiritual herb garden. Let's go in. Our sect must obtain a good ranking this time. The disciples of the various large sects entered one after another, and even some sect leaders entered. The condition for victory or defeat in the 100 Sect Conference was to see which sect obtained the most profound light grass. Among all the sects, only Lin Ling was alone. He did not say a word and walked towards the crack. There were too many experts here, so he obviously could not kill Realgar. He only had a chance at the 9 dragons and 18 grooves. This was also the reason why he participated in the 100 Sect Conference. Kid, you better be obedient. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless. Not far from Lin Ling, a thin and weak young man looked at Lin Ling and sneered. Lin Ling ignored him and disappeared into the huge crack. How arrogant. That disdainful look pisses me off. Catch up to him. It's best to kill him. Maybe Brother Realgar will value us and bring us to the great Azure God dynasty. The people around the thin and weak young man said coldly. Then they followed closely behind Lin Ling. In their opinion, Lin Ling was simply a piece of meat in their mouths. They were even more afraid that this piece of meat would be snatched away by others. After entering the huge crack and reappearing, they were already in the endless mountains and swamps. When a person was here, it was as if they were on the scales of a dragon. The dragon was very, very big, like a long and narrow continent. This was the 9 dragons and 18 grooves. Bastard, he's gone. How could this be? Based on our speed, we should be following closely behind him. Could it be that he realized that we were following him, so he immediately escaped after entering this place? We've been tricked. After those people appeared, they looked around and their faces instantly turned ugly. That was because Lin Ling had disappeared. What should we do now? Let's go and collect the hidden gate grass. It's said that even the sect leader hasn't explored all of the 9 dragons and 18 grooves. It's like looking for a needle in a haystack to find a person here. Yeah, anyway, Lin Ling will find Brother Realgar sooner or later. If we go to Brother Realgar's place, we should be able to meet Lin Ling. At that time, Lin Ling won't be our turn to attack. There are many people who want to flatter Brother Realgar. Those people continued to talk and their faces turned even uglier. Bang. At that moment, a black shadow suddenly shot from afar and landed on the ground. Those people's faces changed as they thought that it was a sneak attack. However, when they saw the head clearly, all of them were enraged. That was because they knew that person. It was their junior brother. Moreover, from the horrified expression on the head, they could tell that their junior brother had died a horrible death. It seemed that he had encountered something horrible before he died. That made them clench their fists tightly. Our junior brother was a sincere person who stood aloof from worldly affairs. Who killed him? Right when we were at the sect, I heard that he took the initiative to follow Lin Ling. Could it be Lin Ling? Must be him, bastard. Those people cursed angrily. They didn't expect that they wouldn't be able to find Lin Ling, but one of their own had died. However, although they were angry, they couldn't do anything about it. They could only move on. At the other corner of the 9 dragons and 18 grooves, Lin Ling's speed was extremely fast. He constantly weaved through the rocks like a bolt of blue lightning. He also knew that many people wanted to harm him. However, he wasn't afraid of them. Chapter 28:55. Mysterious Light Grass. I have no enmity with the disciples of these sections. Because they want to curry favor with Realgar, they all want to teach me a lesson. Realgar's background is definitely not small. Otherwise, the sects of the Crimson Province would not give him face. In the Great Azure Divine Dynasty, there are not many people who have such face. As Lin Ling advanced, he kept guessing. However, he discovered that this place was very big. There were layers upon layers of gray rocks everywhere, like a maze. It was clearly difficult to find Realgar. What is this? Why does it have universal power? After advancing for a long time, suddenly, a flash appeared in front of him. It was like a star. Moreover, a mysterious power also pervaded the air. This caused Lin Ling to quickly rush forward. Only then did he discover that it was a blue spirit grass as thick as an arm. It only had 2 leaves, but its petals were extremely beautiful, like a star. Mysterious light grass? Lin Ling was overjoyed. With Li Xiaoyao's knowledge, he naturally knew of this precious spirit grass. That was a treasure that was useful even for martial immortals. According to legends, there was a grandmaster who had eaten countless profound light grasses. Relying on his most ordinary talent, he was able to create a huge wave in the 9 provinces. Only later did people find out that his ultimate martial path had reached an unprecedented height, and his power was extremely powerful. This was the benefit of the mysterious light grass. It could increase the universal power. One must know that the universal power was even more mysterious than the power of primal chaos. It was also the next stage of the ultimate martial path's power of heaven and earth. In my previous life, I had always been looking for the birthplace of the mysterious light grass. Unfortunately, I couldn't find it even after traveling through the 9 provinces. Yes. Lin Ling suddenly nodded and wanted to pick it. However, at that moment, 3 figures shot over like lightning from afar. Elite disciples of the 100 sect gathering? Seeing that, Lin Ling's gaze instantly flickered. He even somewhat recognized one of them. If he didn't remember incorrectly, that person had cursed him several times in order to curry favor with Realgar. Crimson Province, this is my first time here. Although I didn't think of provoking them, if they want to harm me, then I won't be lenient. Lin Ling simply stopped harvesting and quietly waited for the 3 people to arrive. Moreover, his purpose of coming here was not to find any treasure, but to find Realgar. Therefore he wanted to know the whereabouts of Realgar through these people. Bang bang bang. The gray rock exploded. Then 3 figures smashed down like shooting stars. They had their hands behind their backs, their expressions calm. These 3 were all at the peak of the true deity realm. In Green Province they were exceptional talents. Haha, the first stock of mysterious light grass has been found. Our great cloud sect has taken another step towards the championship. One of them threw his head back and roared with laughter. There was an indescribable pride in his voice as he stared at the profound light grass with excitement. The 2 people beside her were obviously junior brothers. At this moment, they were also laughing loudly, as if they were already the champions of the 100 sect tournament and had shown off in front of their master and junior sister. Of course, while they were laughing, they also noticed that there was another person standing beside the mysterious light grass. That person was like a stone statue. His face was expressionless, and when he saw their complacent expressions, his eyes were filled with disdain. There's someone here. Everyone be careful. Who are you? No, you seem to be Lin something from the Great Azure God Dynasty. At this moment, the 3 of them were shocked. Then they recognized Lin Ling. After all, not long ago, Lin Ling had a grudge with brother Realgar, and this was something that was obvious to all. Senior brother, it's that guy. Our luck is too good. We got the mysterious light grass and even found Lin Ling. After being stunned for a moment, the three of them laughed even more crazily, as if Lin Ling was more precious than the mysterious light grass. I'm Shui Xiaoyao. You're called Lin something, right? Kneel down obediently. After the senior brother was overjoyed, he looked at Lin Ling indifferently and said. Lin Ling was only at the 8th stage of the true god realm. Although he was a monstrous genius of the great Azure god dynasty, his cultivation realm was nothing in their eyes. Kneel down, you piece of trash. Are you blind? Why don't you take a look at yourself? You actually want to settle accounts with Brother Realgar. Are you looking for death? The other two junior brothers said sternly. When they were in the sect, they could only flatter their elders and senior brothers. Now that they saw someone weaker than them, they naturally put on airs as senior brothers. However, they didn't know that it wasn't because they were lucky that they met Lin Ling, but because Lin Ling had been waiting for them. Shui Xiaoyao. What an ironic name. I'm Li Xiaoyao and you're called Shui Xiaoyao? Your parents didn't give you a good name. However, I'm not interested in what your name is. However, you and I have no grudge. Do you really want to attack me? With that little bit of cultivation of yours? Lin Ling said indifferently. You're not satisfied with my name? The senior brother named Shui Xiaoyao was a little unhappy. Outside his body, rolling waves surged out like the water of the Milky Way. His talent wasn't low, and he had a third-grade divine body. Most importantly, he obviously wasn't the strongest genius of any sect, but he had a third-grade divine body. This showed how powerful the geniuses of the Crimson Province were. Great wave eliminates sand. Swoosh, swoosh. Shui Xiaoyao didn't move at all. He only shouted in a low voice, and in an instant countless water droplets shot toward Lin Ling. Although the water droplets looked small, their attack power was extremely terrifying. Perhaps no one below the peak of the true god realm could stop them. Senior brother's great wave eliminates sand has reached 120% chaotic energy. Amazing. The two junior brothers immediately flattered Lin Ling, as if they wanted to tell him that this was the way of the Crimson Province. Sword come. Seeing this, Lin Ling still stood there like a pine tree. With a thought, swords shot out from behind him like locusts. What kind of martial arts is this? It seems to be the famous Ashura sword formation of the Green Province. This guy is quite capable. The two junior brothers were shocked, but soon shook their heads in disdain. They didn't think that Lin Ling, who was only at the stage 8 true god realm, could be very powerful. Rumble. However, in front of them, the sea of swords began to merge and turned into a huge ancient sword. This strange scene was an eye-opener for them. Frogs at the bottom of a well, haven't you seen a real martial arts before? Lin Ling seemed to know that the two of them were shocked, so he mocked them. Then, his eyebrows moved slightly, and the huge ancient sword fell into his hand. Then he slashed with the sword. Bang, bang, bang. All the water droplets burst apart with a single slash of his sword. It was extremely easy. Seeing this, Shui Xiaoyao was slightly surprised and said lightly, It seems that I've underestimated you. You do have some skills, but that's all. Although the huge sword is powerful, it can't cut the opponent. What's the use of it? Gurgle. As his voice fell, something miraculous happened. Bubbles began to appear in the void one after another. Then they exploded and actually drowned the nearby area. Chapter 2856. Not qualified to be carefree. Xiao xiao xiao. Among them, a white ribbon-like ray of light quickly pierced through. It was hard to see with the naked eye. It's here. Senior brother's ultimate technique, white stripe in the waves. Beautiful, truly beautiful. Seeing this, the two junior brothers cheered and shouted at Lin Ling, This is 6 realms speed. 6 realms, do you know what 6 realms are? You can only use 5 realms speed. One had to know that there weren't many geniuses who could use 6 realms speed in Qing province. This showed how powerful 6 realms speed was. Haha, Lin something, do you know fear now? Isn't your sword very impressive? Why aren't you using your sword? Can't you find me? Shui Xiaoyao's voice also floated out from the surging waves. It was arrogant and unruly. Seeing this, Lin Ling didn't move. He looked around indifferently. He found that the Crimson Province geniuses were also quite powerful. Although they didn't have the first seal of the true god martial soul, they were able to display their talent to the limit. Seeing that Lin Ling did not move, Shui Xiaoyao thought that Lin Ling was helpless. You're really weak. I still wanted to have some fun. In the end, you disappoint me. Lin Ling, it's time to end this. Take a good look at this beautiful world because you don't have a chance anymore. Rumble. Along with his voice, the huge waves at the bottom of the water rolled and formed a huge water wave handprint in the water. It bloomed with bright light and slapped towards Lin Ling. The power of this palm was enough to destroy 10 realms in the north. In fact, his divine body's talent was also very strange. If he used it in the north, the various realms would be submerged by his talent and drown in the water. Senior brother Xianxia, well done. The 2 junior brothers were very excited. It was as if their senior brother was fighting for Crimson Province and suppressing Qing Province. You have some skill, but as you said, it's time to end this. Also, my name is Lin Ling, not Lin something. At this time Lin Ling finally spoke. Flames began to appear on the surface of his body. The evil flame transformation activated and poured into the giant sword. Boom. This sword, with a spirit that reached the rainbow, collided with his water ripple handprint. You're courting death. Xianxia shouted in disdain. Lin Ling dared to fight him head-on and in his domain? If this wasn't courting death, then what was? Boom. However, as soon as he finished speaking, his huge water palm was destroyed by the sword. Moreover, the entire water world was split into 2 by the sword. In the shattered water world, Lin Ling walked towards Xianxia with his sword in hand. What? I'm at the peak of the true god realm and he's only at the 8th stage of the true god realm. Why has his realm essence reached the peak of the true god realm? No, it's beyond the true god realm. Although that sword did not kill Xianxia, the surging realm energy still caused Xianxia to spit out a mouthful of blood. His expression changed greatly. Then, like a white stripe in the waves, he fled into the distance. His heart continued to rumble. Was this the most monstrous genius of Qingzhou? It seemed that to be valued by Qingzhou, one's strength was not as weak as they had imagined. The elite geniuses of the 100 Sect Conference have underestimated him. This won't do. I must inform the various sect masters and ask them to kill Lin Ling. We can't let this monstrous genius of Qingzhou return to Qingzhou. While he was escaping, Xianxia kept thinking and his expression was extremely gloomy. In fact, he had even abandoned his 2 junior brothers. Lin something will meet again. Until his voice drifted over from afar, his 2 junior brothers finally reacted and their expressions were as frightened as eggplants. Their senior brother ran away. Then he left them behind to face Lin Ling? How were they going to face him? Trying to escape. However, would Lin Ling allow Xianxia to escape? I've said it before. I'm Lin Ling, not Lin something. Sizzle. Amidst the splashing water, a faintly discernible voice could be heard. What was terrifying was that before the voice could be heard, a figure appeared in front of Xianxia and a sword was pointed coldly at him. That speed was obviously the 7 realms speed. At this moment, Xianxia's expression froze and was filled with fear. One must know that he was running away at the 6 realms speed and thought that Lin Ling would definitely not be able to catch up to him. That was why he dared to be so arrogant. However, Lin Ling told him that the 6 realms speed was too slow. Thump. Staring at the cold sword, Xianxia swallowed his saliva with difficulty. At this moment, his body was trembling as he spoke nervously. How can you be so strong? Li. I've been practicing martial arts all my life. Why should I explain anything to you? Li. Lin Ling's expression was calm, but his eyes were filled with cold, murderous intent. With a gentle wave of his right hand, the huge ancient sword slashed down, causing the void to be cut open. It was surging and magnificent. Oh, Li. Looking at the huge sword slashing down, Xianxia let out a frightened cry. He wanted to resist, but unfortunately, his heart betrayed him and he knew that any resistance was useless. In your next life, don't be called Xiaoyao. Li. Before he died, this was the only sentence left in his heart. Xiaoyao had met Li Xiaoyao. He was not qualified to be Xiaoyao. Dead, Senior Shui died just like that. This Lin Ling is too strong. In the distance, the 2 junior brothers had been looking at Xiaoyao. When they saw that he was killed by a sword, they were so scared that their faces turned pale. Almost at the same time, a sword appeared in front of them. Lin Ling's figure appeared like a ghost. However, the moment he appeared, the 2 junior brothers were so scared that they knelt down and kept kowtowing. Spare our lives, spare our lives. Let me ask you, have you seen Realgar? I haven't seen it, but I heard that someone saw it in the east. Thank you. Lin Ling nodded slightly and slashed down with his sword. The 2 junior brothers were stunned. Lin Ling wanted to kill them? Lin something, how dare you? One of them roared. He never thought that the 100 Sect Conference would be the anniversary of his death. Unfortunately, Lin Ling never showed mercy to his enemies. After ending their lives with a single slash, Lin Ling immediately left after collecting the mysterious light grass. Of course, when he left, he did not forget to take away the treasures left behind by those people. Unfortunately, to his disappointment, these people's treasures were mostly trash. There was not even a single mysterious light grass. Thinking about it, the mysterious light grass that Lin Ling collected previously was their first harvest. Unfortunately, they still did not collect it. My name is Lin Ling, not Lin something. After Lin Ling disappeared, a sarcastic voice sounded in the empty space from before. At this moment, Lin Ling was rushing towards the east. He even ignored the mysterious light grass that he encountered along the way. Compared to treasures, Realgar was obviously more important. However, the 18 ravines of the 9 dragons were very big. Lin Ling headed in one direction, but he would sometimes get lost. That person is not Lin something. Along the way, he naturally met the elite disciples of various sects. Catch him. Those elite disciples naturally would not let Lin Ling go. Chapter 2857. What surprised Lin Ling was that Xianxia was rather important in the various sections. There were actually people from the 3 sects protecting him. This meant that if he wanted to get close to Xianxia, he would have to fight to the death. Till death do us part. Lin Ling's eyes were filled with determination. He did not stop, and instead he was getting closer and closer to Xianxia. That was indeed the case. A large number of people had gathered around Xianxia. Not only were there elite geniuses, but there were also elders from the sections. They were indomitable existences. Under a towering basalt rock that was like a lighthouse, a large number of figures had gathered around a bonfire and were chatting wittily. Brother Xianxia, this is our 100 sect conference. After you leave, we'll give you some mysterious light grass as a token of our hospitality. Someone said with a smile. Xianxia's main purpose in participating in the 100 sect conference was to broaden his horizons. As the host, they would naturally receive him warmly. Thank you, brothers. Xianxia smiled and spoke politely because he knew that there would definitely be a top expert from Crimson Province among this group of people. Therefore he would not miss such a favor. You're welcome. Everyone smiled and waved their hands. Someone was curious about Qing Province and could not help but ask, Brother Xianxia, what's so special about Qing Province? Also, what about the geniuses of Qing Province? For example, the famous 9 heavens of Qing Province. What techniques are they good at? Is it talent, ultimate martial arts, or something else? Hearing that, the others were also curious. Some even asked about the emperor's mandate. However, this matter was of great importance and was secretly stopped by the others. Let's talk about it one by one. There's no hurry. I'll tell you everything you want to know. Xianxia replied politely and was just about to mention the 9 heavens of Qing Province. Bang! At that moment, a rumbling sound came from afar. Everyone could even see that a huge basalt rock mountain in the distance was collapsing. What happened? Seeing this, everyone stood up with their brows tightly furrowed. However, the rumbling sound continued and even the ground shook as if there was an intense battle in the distance. Bang! Bang bang bang. Not long after, several figures shot out from the rock forest. These people were all seriously injured and their bodies were burning with flames. They looked at the people present. One of them wanted to say something, but he had already fallen down in pain. The others also opened their mouths, but in the end they were burned alive. This? Could it be that a terrifying spirit beast had appeared in the 18 ravines of the 9 dragons? Moreover, everyone shuddered as they looked at the person who had died miserably. Some of the more cowardly ones even wanted to run away and leave this place. Not good. However, the silence did not last long. Another young man rushed out in a panic. His clothes were tattered and his face was covered in blood. It's the disciples of the Light Revolutionary sect. Don't worry, tell me what happened. One of the old men wanted to step forward. He had an ominous premonition. It's a mysterious person. The young man shouted anxiously. He wanted to say something, but a dazzling ray of sword light slashed over from afar, causing his head to fall to the ground. In the end, he didn't say anything and was directly killed. It's not a spirit beast attack, it's a person. This time, everyone was even more frightened. Bang! Almost at the same time, the sound of footsteps came from the messy pile of rocks in front of them. Then, with a rumbling sound, the black tortoise rock that was blocking the path was cut off. A mysterious person wearing a black cloak, holding a huge ancient sword, appeared in front of everyone's eyes. This person was covered in colorful flames, as if he was an ancient flame god. He was extremely terrifying. However, what surprised everyone was that this mysterious person seemed to be only at the 8th stage of the true god realm. This kind of person actually killed his way in from the periphery and reached them? If they didn't see it with their own eyes, they would have thought that they were dreaming. This person can't be underestimated. In addition, he's like a killing god. I'm afraid that his strength can't be underestimated. Everyone be careful. An elder said solemnly as he stared at the mysterious person. For the first time he was afraid of a junior at the True God realm. This was because he knew that an ordinary True God realm expert could never kill those people. Your Excellency, which sect are you from? The elder asked indifferently. However, the mysterious person was like a statue. He didn't seem to know how to speak. Instead, the sword in his hand slashed down fiercely in a domineering manner. The power of that slash had exceeded the range of the True God realm. The elder didn't expect that the mysterious person would attack so suddenly. He couldn't react in time and was slashed through the middle of his head. His entire body was cut into two halves. The elder's strength was at the martial celestial realm. Martial celestial realm, Mount Tai and the Big Dipper as long as the sun and the moon. However, he still couldn't block that slash. That slash was so terrifying. That's the elder of the Haotian Grand Emperor sect. You killed him. The people present opened their mouths wide and let out all kinds of sharp screams. This mysterious person was too terrifying. He killed without saying a word and didn't even let the elder off. Rumble. However, what answered them was a huge sword. The cloaked man was like a puppet that had received a death order. His purpose was to kill them. Under that slash, a large number of people were killed. Could it be a puppet? While many people were panicking, they were also constantly guessing what had happened. However, what greeted them was another slash, an invincible slash. This time, the people became more and more panicked and they were completely afraid. However, the cloaked man still didn't say a word. He just continued to kill those people. Because he was Lin Ling. The reason why he was like a puppet and killed the enemies as if he had received a death order was because he knew his purpose. He wanted to know who the murderer was. Therefore, when he came here, he exploded with all his strength. He merged his three dantians and activated the evil flame change to the extreme. He killed his opponents like a whirlwind. This was also because if his opponent knew his background, then even if he could kill his opponent, he would have to spend more effort to do so. Moreover, although he killed mercilessly, if he came with his real identity, others would kill him even if he didn't do anything. Therefore, there was nothing wrong with striking first to gain the upper hand. Bastard. Seeing their disciples being slaughtered one after another, two of the elders were enraged. Because they wanted to know what was going on, the cloaked man attacked first. If they knew that the cloaked man came with the intention to kill, they wouldn't have asked and killed him directly. Soul-sealing universal palm. An elder strangely appeared above the cloaked man's head. His palm was like an eagle's and the power of the universe surged as it grabbed down. It was a true god martial spirit. Let's see if you're a puppet or a human. The elder used a 6th level boundary martial skill, an ultimate martial skill which was extremely powerful. Chapter 2858. Flame Coffin Burning Heaven and Earth. Power of the Universe. At this moment, Lin Ling also felt the pressure above his head. He clenched his teeth and looked at the realgar through the cloak. His gaze became even more resolute. In his mind, Lord Pu, Lord Shui Wu, his old friends, their faces floated in Lin Ling's mind. A debt of blood must be paid with blood. If he didn't even know who the murderer was, Lin Ling wouldn't have the face to return to his hometown. Great rhinoceros soaring heavenly country. Another elder moved his hands and a terrifying ancient beast appeared on his forehead. It had sharp fangs, it looked like a rhinoceros and a wild boar at the same time. That was his true god spirit, and the most terrifying thing about it was that it had a rare innate ability to transform into a beast. When the beast appeared, it turned into a true form and said, "Even if you're a puppet, I'll still kill you." The beast's horn shone coldly as it charged toward Lin Ling. At this moment, Lin Ling was facing two martial immortal realm experts at the same time. Seeing this, everyone sneered. They wanted to kill the cloaked man who was courting death. Now they could see whether the cloaked man was a human or a puppet. At this moment, Lin Ling only had two choices. 1. Retreat. 2. Fight. Of course, since Lin Ling dared to come here, he had already thrown caution to the wind and chose to fight. Bang. The huge ancient sword was smashed to the ground by Lin Ling. He stretched out his hand and roaring flames began to gather. Moreover, it turned into the shape of a coffin. He was preparing the flame coffin. However, above his head, the huge claw grabbed Lin Ling's head. "I want to see whether you're a puppet or a human." A cold voice sounded at the same time. However, in the next moment, the elder exclaimed, "It's a human! What a powerful soul power!" His martial arts were related to soul power. He could search souls. When his palm landed on a world, he could know all the memories and thoughts of all the people in that world. However, he found that the cloaked man's soul power was beyond imagination. He couldn't search his soul at all. Bang. At the same time, the terrifying rhinoceros crashed into the cloaked man's body, pushing him forward. The ground continued to crack, and everywhere it passed, rocks the size of small mountains were directly shattered. How terrifying. This collision can easily destroy the 10 realms. That fella is only made of flesh and blood, how could he block it? Looking at the rhinoceros behemoth that was like a siege chariot, everyone was shocked. Moreover, the rhinoceros beast had already knocked the cloaked man further and further away, disappearing into the distance. Serves him right. I'm afraid that fellow's corpse is already gone. Then voices of schadenfreude could be heard. At this moment, within the endless Jianghu ancient rock, a figure continued to fly backwards. In front of him was a gigantic beast that was over 100 meters tall. Rumble. Deafening noises kept ringing out. Finally, the giant beast stopped in its tracks. Damn it. That giant beast also spoke human language. He's dead. In the sky, the elder was still holding the cloaked man's head. 2 elders were suppressing the cloaked man. If the people from the other sects were here, let alone resisting, they would be terrified just by looking at them. Flaming coffin. However, at this moment, a cold voice rang out. The cloaked man raised his head. There was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth, but his eyes were filled with madness. It was a madness that went all out. Moreover, he smiled. His smile was bloodthirsty. His left hand reached out from the cloak, and then, a small flaming coffin appeared. However, the moment it appeared, the Jianghu ancient rock began to burn without any fire. Moreover, the flaming coffin began to grow bigger. What? The 2 elders' eyes trembled violently. Impossible. No matter how strong a martial artist is, his physical body is his weakness. After being attacked by the 2 of us, his physical body should have been destroyed. Could it be that this is really a tough puppet? He's a human. Previously, I checked that he has a soul and memories. Moreover, the biggest impression that the memories gave me was that a debt of blood must be paid with blood. The 2 elders spoke out and looked at the cloaked man in fear. They began to retreat. However, it was too late to retreat now. The flaming coffin descended, and the flame god's heart was beating. Lin Ling, at his peak, had activated the first seal of the true god martial soul. Without a doubt, the flaming coffin had reached an unprecedented height. The flaming coffin burning the heavens and earth. Rumble. The terrifying flames finally erupted. The entire area around the black tortoise ancient rock began to tumble in the air like straw. And this was only formed by the shockwave before the flame coffin exploded. After the explosion, the black tortoise ancient flame instantly turned into a sea of fire. The ancient rocks with endless history began to melt like water. What's happening? What a powerful flame energy. In the distance, the expressions of Xianxia and the others changed drastically because there was already a blazing fire in the distance. Moreover, a huge flaming coffin was fluttering in the sky, and this caused them to be worried about the 2 elders. That's... Xianxia stared at the flaming coffin. He suddenly felt that it was very familiar. However, he suddenly could not remember where he had seen it before. The heavens and earth seemed to have quieted down. But amidst the billowing flames, a cold voice came walking over. A black cloak was dragging a huge ancient sword behind him, as if he was a war god from ancient times. The god of war was invincible and would never admit defeat. Boom. At this moment, everyone's hearts were pounding. He's not dead. Who is this person? He blocked the attacks of 2 elders consecutively. He's still alive and even killed the elders. Is he still human? What a terrifying physical strength. They saw multicolored flames behind the cloaked man, and they saw a huge mouth, as if it wanted to swallow the heavens and devour the earth, which made them feel extremely terrified. And these were 2 kinds of 5th-grade talents. Furthermore, the cloaked man's pace was not fast. However, every step he took was earth-shattering. It was as if his soles were the myriad of worlds. He crushed the myriad of worlds. Plop. The weaker disciples were directly shocked by the earth-shattering power and fell to the ground. Your Excellency, is there any misunderstanding between us? Xianxia said solemnly and respectfully, they are disciples of the 100 Gates. Do you have a grudge against them? In fact, it's better to squash enmity than to keep it alive. If you have a grudge, I'm willing to be a peacemaker and resolve it. He thought that Lin Ling was here for the elites of the 100 Gates. I'm sorry. They have no grudge against me. You have a grudge against me. In front of them, the cloaked man was still walking forward. However, his left hand landed on the cloak and gently lifted it, revealing a cold face. Lin Ling. Xianxia was shocked when he saw this. The elites of the 100 Gates around them were also stunned. Their hearts were pounding. Was this still the Qingzhou genius Lin Ling that they looked down on? They thought that the Qingzhou was weaker than the Crimson Prefecture. They thought that Lin Ling was a stage 8 true god and that his strength was limited. But now they knew that they were wrong. A stage 8 true god defeated 2 martial immortals and returned victorious. Chapter 2859. The Sect Master of the Great Jade Pure Hall. Blah. At that moment, even more elite geniuses fell to the ground in fright. Some of them even smiled bitterly. Were they still elite geniuses in front of Lin Ling? They should just obediently remove the word genius. It's you. Xianxia did not expect Lin Ling to be so strong. Although he knew that Lin Ling was famous in Qingzhou and was not weak, he believed that Lin Ling was still inferior to him. After all, he had grown up in Five Ring City. However, he did not dare to look directly at Lin Ling now. Looking at the elite geniuses from the 100 gates around him, he shook his head. He did not think that these people could protect him. Lin Ling had hidden his strength very well. When the elite geniuses from the 100 gates provoked him at the beginning, Lin Ling remained silent and did not resist. This made them think that he was only SOSO. However, after Lin Ling attacked, he immediately knew that he had been tricked. If he had known earlier, he would have left the sect master beside Xianxia instead of an elder. Swoosh. Without saying anything, Xianxia fled in the other direction. Stop him. At the same time he roared. Hearing that, everyone stood there in shock. Not long ago, at the 100 Gates conference, Xianxia had said that if he saw Lin Ling, he would give him some pointers and let Lin Ling know that there was always someone better than him. However, now that Xianxia had seen Lin Ling again, he could only flee. Lin Ling, this is Crimson Prefecture. Under Realger's loud roar, someone finally walked out. So what if it's Crimson Prefecture? How dare a bunch of trash like you stop me? Seeing that Xianxia was fleeing, how could Lin Ling let him do as he wished? He pounced forward like a god of war. Get lost. He brandished his large sword and the elite geniuses who were blocking his way were killed with one slash. It was an all-encompassing attack. No one could stop him. The word, trash, echoed in the ears of the elite geniuses from the 100 gates. It made them smile bitterly as they realized that they were indeed trash. Even with so many people, they couldn't stop Lin Ling alone. If they weren't trash, then what were they? So what if you're from the Crimson State? In my eyes, you're just a bunch of weaklings. Lin Ling's greatsword was extremely tyrannical. As he brandished it, even the disciples couldn't stop him. They could only watch as Lin Ling arrogantly killed the Realger. As for them, they couldn't do anything. Not long ago they had boasted that they would protect Realger. But now they couldn't even protect themselves. If Lin Ling's target wasn't Realger, they would have knelt down and begged Lin Ling for mercy. This bastard. At this moment, Lin Ling was chasing after Realger. That fellow was really despicable and shameless. Previously they had agreed that if he, Lin Ling, found Realger, then Realger would tell him everything. But now that fellow only knew how to run away. But soon, Lin Ling realized that Realger had stopped in his tracks. It seemed that he was going to give up. When Lin Ling arrived, he realized that Realger was standing quietly under 2 gigantic mountains. Beside him was a tall and sturdy old man. Lin Ling, do you want to know who the murderer is? You won't have the chance in this lifetime. Realger seemed to have gained a lot of confidence as he sneered. Stray dog, you have nowhere to run. Sigh. Glancing at Realger indifferently, Lin Ling said disdainfully. His words of indifference caused Realger's face to turn gloomy. He didn't expect that he, a god empress, would end up like this. He was chased down 9 streets and didn't even dare to face Lin Ling one-on-one. Sir, you must protect Realger. Sigh. Lin Ling ignored Realger and looked at the old man. You are Lin Ling. Sigh. The old man stood there quietly like a tall mountain. His face was very strange. The left side of his face was white while the right side was black. Coupled with his dignified appearance, it gave people the feeling that they didn't dare to look at him directly. That's the sect master of the Great Jade Pure Hall. Sigh. At this moment, the elite geniuses of the 100 Sects Conference all rushed over with grave expressions. The Great Jade Pure Hall was extremely famous 30,000 years ago. It had once given birth to an expert whose name shook the Crimson region. Relying on the black and white energy, he defeated many experts. Later on, because he provoked some experts from the 9 provinces, he was finally defeated by a mysterious person. That expert then disappeared without a trace. No one knew if he was dead or not. Since then, the Great Jade Pure Hall had fallen from a 6th grade orthodox martial arts sect to a 4th grade sect. But it was undeniable that although the Great Jade Pure Hall had declined, its foundation was very deep. Senior, kill him. I will recommend you to the Empress Dowager. Realgar looked at the old man and said, You are really a piece of trash. As a genius of the Azure provinces, you could only rely on the help of others when you met him. But he killed you 9 times over. Do you think you are qualified to mock others? The old man reprimanded, causing Realgar's eyes to narrow. Was the other party mocking him? From this, it could be seen that the sect master's temper wasn't very smooth. No wonder the great Jade Pure Hall was declining. However, I will protect your life. The old man said again and looked at Lin Ling, Azure Province's Lin Ling, the most monstrous genius in the history of the Resplendent Academy. Hearing about you is not as good as meeting you in person. You have cultivated for less than 2,000 years, but you have become the king of the first generation. You are indeed powerful. What was surprising was that he was very familiar with Lin Ling. I will spare your life on account of your difficult cultivation. Now leave. The Crimson region is not a place you can come to. Senior, the Crimson region is indeed not my hometown. But if your family, friends, and sect were to be destroyed, what would you do? I would fight with my sword. That's right. That is why I am here. You are really a stubborn junior. For revenge, you came from the Azure provinces to the Crimson region. You are like a fierce dragon crossing the river. The two looked at each other and exchanged a few words. Lin Ling could see that the old man might not be a good person, but he had a magnanimous temperament. However, everyone has their own goals. I will not let you kill Realgar. If you are really stubborn, you will only end up dead. The old man's expression was cold, but there was a hint of doting in his eyes when he looked at Lin Ling. In the great Jade Pure Hall, there were countless geniuses, but no one was more powerful than Lin Ling. Therefore, when he saw Lin Ling, he felt a sense of appreciation for his talent. Of course, he also knew that it was impossible for a genius like Lin Ling to join their great Jade Pure Hall. We have never fought before. Everything is unknown. Lin Ling also raised his sword. His eyes were extremely firm. He has a tenacious temperament. He is a good seedling. The old man nodded. He knew that Lin Ling would not give up until all hope was gone. This battle was unavoidable. An oppressive atmosphere quietly pervaded the air. This fellow swept away the elite geniuses of the 100 clans and defeated the sect's elders. Now he even dares to go against the sect master. Although the great Jade Pure Hall is no longer glorious, it used to be famous in the Crimson region. This Lin Ling is simply courting death. Although he is courting death, it is undeniable that there are no more than 20 elite geniuses who can suppress him in the 100 Clans Conference. Chapter 2860. The Sect Leader. Xianxia, before I win, you are not allowed to run away. If I lose, your life will be in Lin Ling's hands. The old man's body began to emit a rolling aura, causing the surrounding black tortoise ancient rocks to crack. Then they began to fall. Okay. Xianxia immediately replied. The reason why he agreed so quickly was because he knew that Lin Ling could not win. Because Lin Ling was not qualified to fight against the sect leader. If it was in the Green region, Lin Ling would be fighting against the giants of the Green region. Lin Ling, go to hell. The old man attacked. His aura surged and he did not hold back at all. Even though he thought highly of Lin Ling, there were some things in the world that one had no choice in. Third level of the martial immortal realm. Seeing the old man attack, Lin Ling's face turned serious. He did not know what cultivation technique the old man cultivated, but there was black and white energy swirling around his body. It was extremely mysterious. The old man's talent was a 5th grade divine body, but his cultivation level was higher than Lin Ling's by a few levels. Moreover, his ultimate martial path must have reached the point of perfection. This was a strong opponent. Fortunately, Lin Ling had already erupted with his full strength. His 3 dantians merged together, and the evil flame change was also activated to the extreme. Therefore, it would not be easy for the old man to kill him. Bang bang bang. Activating the Ashura sword formation again, 10,000 swords shot towards the old man. Clear flow. The old man suddenly let out a low roar, and a fog-like white gas appeared on the surface of his body, causing his figure to become ethereal. The sea of swords shot over, and crackling sounds rang out non-stop, but the old man directly charged through the sea of swords. Your swords, don't even think of touching me. The old man laughed coldly. He stretched out his hand, and his 5 fingers turned into a clear flow of white as he viciously grabbed. Seeing this, Lin Ling's face changed slightly. He activated the 7 realms speed and turned into a ray of light, disappearing from where he was standing. The ground where he was standing before cracked open, and 5 huge ravines appeared. They were so deep that one could not see the end of them. However, just as Lin Ling dodged the killing move, he immediately felt a sense of danger. He did not stop and his body disappeared from where he was standing again. Just as he disappeared, the old man appeared. His hand grabbed and white energy rolled like the water of the heavenly river, rumbled. However, this attack was avoided by Lin Ling's speed. Moreover, Lin Ling sensed that this old man's speed of the 10 realms speed. His speed far exceeded Lin Ling's. Lin Ling could not avoid the other party's pursuit at all. All he could do was to continue to break the olds too. As expected of Lin Ling. He is obviously at the 8th stage of True God realm, but his world essence is surging. That is the strength of the martial immortal realm. The old man's attack failed and he let out a sigh of admiration. This made everyone nod secretly. No wonder Lin Ling could sweep away thousands of troops. He indeed had a mysterious trump card. What a pity. What's the use of it? The old man attacked again. His figure was ethereal, as if he was teleporting between 10,000 realms. A white sword also appeared in his hand. It was formed by the mysterious white energy, and at this moment, it pierced towards Lin Ling. The sword was very fast, exceeding the speed of the 10 realms speed. Generally speaking, when a martial artist used martial arts, most of them would be faster than their movement techniques. And this speed was difficult for Lin Ling to dodge. However, at the crucial moment, his left eye bloomed with a demonic light. At the crucial moment when the sword pierced towards him, at the crucial moment, his body was like a spring, and he quickly leaned back, allowing the cold sword to shoot past his cheek, avoiding that terrifying sword. If he had chosen to retreat, he would have died without a doubt. Because his speed was faster than the sword, he did not choose to retreat. Instead, he avoided that sword on the spot. This was like pulling a tooth from the tiger's mouth. It seemed dangerous, but it was the only way to break the sword. Amazing, you actually saw through this old man's sword. Facing this old man's sword, no true God realm expert can escape or receive it. You are the first person to survive this sword in this old man's hand. The old man maintained his sword posture, and at this moment, he could not help but praise. So amazing. The spectators in the distance also exclaimed. Because they thought that Lin Ling would be killed by this sword, but in the end Lin Ling avoided it. Moreover, this was in the hands of an expert with a profound martial arts foundation. To avoid that killing intent, it was impossible for them not to admire him. Crossing Life Pearl Sun Finger. However, the old man was indeed a master of martial arts. He was also very experienced in battle. After his right sword pierced through the air, he took advantage of the time when Lin Ling's upper body leaned back to form a sword and pierced out with his left finger. In his finger, wisps of white light curled around, looking very sharp. Moreover, those wisps of light became denser and denser. At the crucial moment, Lin Ling's upper body bounced back like a spring. What was surprising was that he did not choose to use martial arts to defend himself, nor did he choose to avoid it. Instead, he used his chest to collide with that sharp finger. Puchi. Then a dull sound was heard. Lin Ling's chest was pierced through, and blood immediately gushed out. He's dead. He lost in 2 moves? Seeing this, many people clenched their fists. Clashing with the sect leader, a genius of the younger generation, was indeed too weak. Sword, come, sweep away 1,000 troops. However, at this moment Lin Ling coldly spat out a sentence. A huge ancient sword had appeared in his right hand at some point in time, and then he swept it out. When he had just dodged the old man's sword, Lin Ling had already begun to summon the tyrannical song sword. Therefore, at this moment he naturally counterattacked. The old man's expression changed slightly, and he disappeared on the spot at the speed of 10 worlds. However, he was still a little too slow. A strand of white beard floated down from the sky. A strand of his beard had been cut off. Didn't you say that my sword can't touch you? At the same time, Lin Ling's cold voice also sounded. All of this seemed slow, but in reality, it all happened in the blink of an eye. When people came to their senses, they looked at the white beard on the ground and were all shocked. One had to know that the old man was a famous figure in Crimson Province for thousands of years. He had taught countless geniuses, but now, a junior had cut off the old man's beard. What's going on? Senior Gao must have been careless. That must be it. I clearly saw that Lin Ling was hit, so he must have resisted with all his might before he died. Senior Gao must have thought that Lin Ling was definitely going to die, so he was careless. The geniuses and elites of Crimson Province analyzed. A bunch of frogs at the bottom of a well, shut up. However, at this moment the old man shouted angrily, causing everyone to open their mouths wide. The old man seemed to be scolding them. My previous finger attack was condensed with my white sun water flow, which can kill a second-level martial immortal expert. The only flaw of this finger attack is that it needs to be charged up. The longer it is charged up, the stronger it becomes. Lin Ling discovered the characteristics of my martial arts, so he took the initiative to move forward and block the sword with his chest before the finger attack was completed, neutralizing my finger attack. Chapter 2861. Little Kunlun Attack. No way, Lin Ling's eyes are so sharp. He's too lucky. Lucky. Hearing that, everyone exclaimed. They could also sense that the old man's words were full of praise. This made them somewhat jealous because as geniuses, they couldn't even enter the eyes of the sect leader. Lucky? Do you have a pair of dog eyes? If life and death were close, would you choose to retreat, resist, or take the initiative? The old man coldly shouted again. Everyone instantly fell silent. If they were faced with that finger, they would definitely resist with all their might. At the very least, they would look for an opportunity to dodge. As for taking the initiative, they didn't even think about it because that would be a suicidal move. You're a disgrace to the Crimson Province. Seeing that everyone was silent, the old man reprimanded again, causing everyone to grit their teeth, feeling very humiliated. The old man also looked at Lin Ling. You're really amazing. Not only do you have reaction time, even your experience and knowledge surpass your peers. If you weren't so young, I would even think that you're an old monster who has cultivated for millions of years. Even though my finger pierced through your chest, it was only a superficial wound, right? The old man's voice was solemn. After all, Lin Ling had broken through the moves of a third-level martial immortal realm martial master. He couldn't help but be shocked. That's right. At this moment, Lin Ling also nodded. The sect leader of the Great Jade Pure Hall was indeed very powerful. Lin Ling had also used all his strength to block it. You're indeed a rare martial arts genius. Unfortunately, my Great Jade Pure Hall is not fortunate enough to recruit you. I'm actually envious of the Green Province. The old man sighed softly and swept his gaze over the disciples of the various sects, his eyes filled with disdain. These geniuses wanted to compete with Lin Ling? They were simply a bunch of toads. Everyone also noticed the old man's gaze. They were all furious, but there was nothing they could do. Again? The old man attacked again. His sword was like a clear stream, like a high mountain and flowing water. Ultimate martial path, the pinnacle of the Dao domain. Looking at this simple and unadorned sword strike, Lin Ling secretly cried out in alarm. When the other party attacked, the power of the universe was extremely terrifying. He simply couldn't meet force with force. He could only constantly search for the flaws in the other party's moves and break them. Lin Ling gathered all of his world essence and stared at the sword with his 10,000 elephant devil eyes. He also made his move. Amazing. 10 points of strength, 8 points of strength, and 2 points of strength reserved. After the first attack failed, it was a perfect retreat. After exchanging a few more blows, the old man exclaimed in admiration. The clash between the two of them was a clash of martial arts. It seemed simple, but when applied to Lin Ling, everything was so smooth and perfect. Others might be able to do this, but they only had the form and not the soul. Lin Ling is so powerful. Xianxia stared fixedly at the battle between the two. He knew that the sect leader would not go easy on Lin Ling, which was why he knew how terrifying Lin Ling was. To be praised by a senior from the Crimson Province, this was the first time in the Green Province. Unfortunately, this honor did not belong to him. Flame Coffin. After a few clashes, Lin Ling also realized that his world essence was greatly depleted, so he used a killer move. Dark Spirit Saint Force. Seeing this, the old man's expression turned serious. He sensed that the huge flame coffin could kill a first-level martial immortal. Therefore he also erupted with his strength. Black air currents appeared as if they could destroy everything and surged. The old man's face turned black and white, and his aura became even more domineering. His hands were mixed with black and white energy and he madly grabbed out. Rumble. When the flame coffin exploded, he actually tore the flame coffin apart. However, he clearly did not gain any advantage. He spat out a mouthful of blood and was slightly injured. This old man. Seeing this, Lin Ling's eyes flickered. It was the first time he saw someone so domineering holding the flame coffin. This also meant that even though Lin Ling was strong in all major areas, he still could not defeat an expert whose realm was much higher than his. Injured, the sect leader is injured. Of course, compared to Lin Ling's helplessness, the people were so shocked that they could not close their mouths. One was the sect leader of an ancient sect, a martial immortal, and the other was a genius from the Green Province. However, the rising star injured the senior. How could this not shock the people? At least, if it were them, they would be defeated in one move. The first seal of the true god martial spirit, powerful, powerful. Your physical body is very strong, with the power of 500,000 universes, comparable to the power of 50 worlds. No wonder your endurance and explosive power are so strong. Also, you have two talents. Your physical body's defense is very strong, and it can absorb a large amount of the opponent's attacks, reducing the side effects. Your fire talent is focused on offense, very domineering. Most importantly, you have soul power and you seem to be able to detect the flaws in my every move. Of course, no matter how powerful your martial arts experience is, it is all based on your realm. However, your realm essence is very strong, and this is the reason why you have not been defeated until now. The old man spat out another mouthful of blood and said word by word. His heart was also rumbling. It was the first time he had seen such a terrifying little monster. If Lin Ling was also a martial immortal or even a stage 1 martial immortal, he knew that he would not be a match for Lin Ling. When fighting with an enemy, if you show mercy, it is an insult to you. Now it is my turn to attack. My black and white forces are the peak of the ultimate martial Dao domain, half a step into the peak of the ultimate martial Dao, the complete Dao. You have to be careful. The old man attacked again. It was obvious that he respected Lin Ling a lot, so he attacked with his full strength. That was because Lin Ling was the most demon-level true god junior he had ever met in his life. He even felt that it was his good fortune to be able to fight against Lin Ling. The black and white forces, the white forces are like water, increasing your speed and defense. The black forces are like torrential rivers, incomparably ferocious. One yin and one yang, one hard and one soft. Your ultimate martial Dao can defeat many geniuses with great talent. Lin Ling also shouted coldly. On the path of the martial Dao, talent did not represent everything. Powerful martial artists could also kill those with outstanding talent. What they relied on was their profound martial arts experience. My evaluation of you has increased again. You are the first junior to know the characteristics of my ultimate martial Dao. What's the use of a pity? You will still die. The old man's voice was very cold. At that moment, Lin Ling's eyes were flickering. He was already planning to activate the space-time divine steel. However, at that moment, the vine wrapped around his left arm seemed to have awakened. It grew rapidly and viciously lashed out at the old man. The whip contained the profound universal Dao. Although it seemed simple, it contained the sun, moon and stars, spring, summer, autumn and winter. Chapter 2862. Circling. This? The old man was shocked. The crowd was also dumbfounded because they realized that the black and white soul seemed to be a true god martial soul. Could it be that the vine had extracted the old man's true god martial soul? Even Lin Ling was shocked because the vine was mini Kunlun. However, Lin Ling was no fool. He gripped the tyrannical song in his hand tightly and slashed out 12 times. Boom, boom, boom. The old man anxiously clashed with the huge ancient sword and was smashed into the ground, causing the ground to crack continuously. The sudden change caused the surroundings to become deathly silent because no one expected that the sect leader would be suppressed again when he fought Lin Ling. Boom. However, not long after, the old man rushed out again. His face was ferocious and cold. What is that? With Lin Ling's cultivation level, although those swords were powerful, they obviously couldn't hurt him. However, after the vine whipped him, he realized that his strength had decreased by 30% or even 40%. That was why Lin Ling's sword could injure him. The reason was that the vine had extracted his innate talent. If a cultivator didn't have talent, their battle prowess would definitely be greatly reduced. In fact, if it wasn't for the fact that the old man was skilled in martial arts and didn't have talent, those swords would have taken his life. Ho ho, it's a part of my strength. Hearing that, Lin Ling calmly replied. This thing is too terrifying. It can extract a person's talent. The old man frowned as if he couldn't believe it. He attacked Lin Ling again. However, when it got close to Lin Ling, the vine whipped out again. This time, it had extracted the old man's talent again, causing his strength to decrease greatly in a short period of time. Azura sword formation. Seizing the opportunity, Lin Ling activated the sword formation, forming a spirit formation that surged toward the old man. Rumble. This time the old man suffered a great loss again. He was continuously slashed by the tens of thousands of swords. You. Moreover, he started to roar. He was too aggrieved in this battle. Firmament change. Lin Ling ignored him. He pushed the evil flame transformation to its limits. With the flaming coffin in his left hand and the ancient sword in his right, he launched his strongest attack. Around him, the small Kunlun grew larger and larger. It took root in the ground and its vines shot into the sky. It launched a powerful attack at the old man. With every whip, the old man's innate talent was unleashed. Although he did not receive any fatal injuries, it did affect his battle prowess. By the time he reacted, Lin Ling's various powerful ultimate techniques had already arrived, making it difficult for him to defend himself. Space-time Divine Steel. Lin Ling knew that this was his weakest moment, so he used his strongest trump card. Rumble. In the sky, a huge stone tablet came crashing down, as if it was going to break the 18 ravines of the 9 dragons. The disciples of the various sects were like cicadas in winter. They never thought that Lin Ling's attacks would be so strong. Like a storm, not only did it injure the old man, it even suppressed him to the point where he vomited blood again and again. And this is the Azure Province's genius Lin Ling that we look down on. Someone muttered to himself. Suppressing a sect leader, this was something that they did not even dare to think about. Rumble. However, the old man was worthy of being a powerful martial immortal. His tenacious fighting spirit and strength surpassed Lin Ling's imagination. He raised his hands to the sky, and the black and white energies appeared in his palms as if they were omnipotent. They actually lifted up the space-time divine steel. Seeing this, Lin Ling could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. Martial immortal realm, it was indeed very terrifying. His black and white energies are too heaven-defying. Boom. Lin Ling even saw that the old man's innate talent was being continuously extracted. However, the black and white energies were continuously providing spiritual energy, preventing the old man from falling down. Junior, to be able to force me to use 120% of my strength, you are the #1 person under the martial immortal realm. If I remember correctly, the last time I used my full strength, it was during the 100 sect leader battle. The old man roared, treating Lin Ling as a powerful sect leader. Unfortunately, you are still too inexperienced. Sigh. However, he was clearly not afraid of Lin Ling because Lin Ling's current attack was not fatal. Is that so? Sigh. At this moment, Lin Ling gave up on attacking. He appeared behind the old man with 7 realms speed and sent out a palm strike. This guy. Sigh. Seeing Lin Ling's crazy actions, everyone forgot to breathe. Although the sect leader was suppressed by the space-time divine steel, it was very dangerous for Lin Ling to approach him. After all, no matter what, the sect leader was an old monster of the 3rd level of the martial immortal realm. He was a huge elephant and Lin Ling was only an ant. Even the old man was surprised by Lin Ling's actions. Lin Ling's actions were like cards that did not follow common sense. It was very difficult to understand. However, when the palm strike landed behind the old man, he discovered Lin Ling's goal. Lin Ling was actually absorbing the spiritual energy emitted by the black and white energy. One had to know that the black and white energy was very mysterious. It was said that it was a mysterious energy flow that was born when the world was first created. After being observed by experts, they comprehended it. This cultivation technique was called the Heavenly Heaven Divine Reflection Technique, and it was also a cultivation technique that their sect did not pass on. The world essence cultivated by this cultivation technique was very powerful. The black and white energy greatly increased one's defense, speed, and attack. It could even emit spiritual energy at critical moments, allowing the cultivator to remain undefeated. However, Lin Ling seemed to know the characteristics of the black and white energy, so he actually came to absorb it. And if he wanted to stop the space-time divine steel, he could only watch as Lin Ling did whatever he wanted. Bastard. The old man could not help but curse. Senior, you should be careful of the space-time divine steel. Yes. Lin Ling replied indifferently. He operated the primal chaos divine formula in his dantian and continued to refine the spiritual energy of the black and white energy. This was also because the old man's goal was the space-time divine steel. Otherwise, he would not dare to be so impudent. And after the old man cursed, he also discovered that Lin Ling's cultivation level seemed to be increasing. This made him even more shocked because no one had ever been able to refine the spiritual energy of others and quickly use it for their own use. Did this mean that Lin Ling was treating him like a deity crystal? Boom. When he thought of this, the sect leader was also enraged. He activated a powerful 7th grade boundary origin martial art, which temporarily increased the power of his attack. He actually managed to blast away the divine steel of time and space. His long hair danced wildly, and he looked like a war god from the primordial era. How troublesome. Lin Ling's expression changed. He immediately retreated, recalled the space-time divine steel, and immediately fled into the distance. Where do you think you're going, bastard? The sect leader no longer had the appearance of a senior. At this moment, it was obvious that his lungs were about to explode from anger. Fighting a junior at the true immortal realm, he had repeatedly been injured and even helped his opponent increase his cultivation level. If news of this spread out, he would not be able to face anyone. Go! Seeing that the old man was chasing after him like a madman, Lin Ling activated the Azura sword formation and then madly fled again. The current him was clearly not suitable for a head-on clash. The two of them clashed in the 9 Dragons' 18 grooves.